Yes, and we are live. Hello, Dagmore. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for this interview. I have to be honest with you. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time.
Thank
So
you.
much for this interview. I have to be honest with you. I've been a big fan of yours for a long
All
time.
right. We are like sorry with the link. Sorry for that. So that's great. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for joining us today. I'm also really excited about this live. I've seen a lot of your videos in the Telegram, and I've
Okay.
seen all your knowledge and all of your tips and experience in the solutions from Instagram. So it's pretty cool we have you over here with your face. And what is that behind you? It's a lot of like, it's the phone farm. You're like in the farm itself, or
No, I'm in the library right now.
find
So,
the light. Cool.
yeah. I hope when you said you've seen a lot of my videos, I hope you're not talking about some of my spicy content.
Just what you shared on Telegram. I saw that and it looks really cool. Like you have how many? I think 4,000 phones over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I mean, we pretty much run the biggest phone farm in North America. We're into tens of thousands of phones at this point. We have a couple data centers set up, but I'm also partners with some of the biggest phone farms in China. So, I mean, you could just imagine how big their infrastructure is. But when it comes to North America, I run most of their hardware and the data centers for them. So, and I can tell you also, I mean, part of my history is actually building out data centers, the infrastructure of what's now fueling the everything AI, but going back even as far as the 1990s. I don't know if your viewers are interested in how I got started or how I got to this point, but I'm more than willing to share with you guys. And of course, answer every question you have when it comes to black hat marketing, phone farms, what's working now, what used to work. So I'm all for you. This you got my whole morning, put it that way.
Thank you. That's amazing. So, yes, I think we all will be happy to hear your story and to understand, like how did you find yourself, with so many phones and with so many great services in America. We have also some great people over here like Mike, which looks like he's getting into the phone farming business now, which is awesome. And yes, and guys, feel free to just comment your questions, and Dagmore will be happy to reply. Maybe you can start, yes, I think with your story just to get to better understand you and to know, we can trust you and, use your great services.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I guess it goes back to my foundation of my education, which was electricity and telecoms. But also when it came to marketing, back in the late 1980s, that's how old I am. I'm not sure when you were born, but I could just say that I got recruited by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers to do a 5-year apprenticeship with a fraternity, a union that goes back to the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
So when I started working with them, I was still a teenager. I was 19, 18 actually, and I was doing a lot of snowboarding. So I'm not sure how many people here snowboard, but that was kind of the beginning of what snowboarding was. And every weekend, I would go out to the ski resorts and I would fill out these postcards, win free lift tickets. So I was a young apprentice. I wasn't making that much money at the time, but I figured if I signed up with enough of these postcards, I would just get free lift tickets. So one week, a girl calls me up and she goes, "Hey, you just won free lift tickets." I'm like, "Okay, what do I have to do?" She's like, "You just have to come out and look at some timeshares." So I'm like, "That's easy enough. I'm going to go there anyway." So before we ended the call, I said to her, "You sound pretty cute. Can I get your phone number?" She had kind of like an English accent from England. And she goes, "To be honest with you, this is just a part time job. So why not?" So I started speaking to her. And you have to understand, back in the late 1980s, there wasn't cell phones. It was just you actually had to have a landline. And yes, we did have the rotary dial phones. So I called her up and I said, "Since I'm coming out there, why don't we just meet up?" She goes, "Yeah, so we spoke on the phone almost every night. And before the weekend came, she said, I want to be honest with you. And I said, okay, what's the deal? You have a boyfriend? She goes, no, I'm 6'2", and I'm only 5'11". So I'm like, okay, that's not a problem. I mean, I guess I can wear high heels or boots, right? She goes, yeah, but I want to be honest with you and tell you something else. I'm like, what's up? And she goes, I have a glass eye. So I'm like, okay. And I thought she was like pranking me. So I said, no problem. So I get out there. We get out there to go snowboarding. I go see the free timeshares. I get the lift tickets, and now is the time to meet up. And we plan to meet up at a pizzeria. So we go there, and I'm pretty sure that her father was watching the whole time as a chaperone. And it turns out we just had pizza. I get back home, I drive home, and I call her and I say, listen, it was really nice meeting you, but to be honest with you, you're not really my type. And she goes, you're not my type either. So I'm like, well, I have a friend who is 6'5". Maybe you'd like to meet him. And if you want, you can introduce me to your friends. So she's like, yeah, fine. So I go out there and I meet her, and I met all these exchange students, and one of them was from Denmark. And we started dating. I would go out there every weekend. And when the time came, she finished her school. I wound up going to Denmark. And this was the year 1990. And it turned out Berlin Wall just came down in November of 89. And this was the time where everybody was just having fun over there. I mean, just experiencing what was like to go into the East. And her parents said to me, like, well, you guys are in love, but I think it's more important that you see some of the world. And they put me on a train from Copenhagen to Prague. And in 1990, Prague was a lot different back then. And, I was young, I was meeting a lot of people, and I had a little not a little camera with me. There was no phones back then. And I took a lot of pictures of the girls that I met with and had relations with. And they said, what are you going to do with those pictures? I said, well, I'm going to, and I don't know if that's good for YouTube. We'll skip that part out so you don't have to beep that part out. So when I got home, I went to the Moto Photo where they develop film. And I said, hey, can you develop this film? And he goes, yeah, that's what we do here. We develop film. I said, yeah, but there's a couple nudes on here. And he goes, are you kidding me? And he opens up the drawer, and it was just nude pictures of all the people from the area that were getting their film developed at his shop. So I said to him, can you make me a copy of those? And he goes, what are you going to do with them? And I said, well, I'm going to start a club called Dudes That Trade Nudes. And I started a big photo trading club. And remember, there was no internet back then. This is 90, 91, the early days. And every year I would go to Europe, I would hitchhike. I was busking in the subways with my guitar. And obviously I was meeting a lot of girls and taking pictures and meeting people. So what happened was I'm now into my apprenticeship, and I'm starting to people are saying, hey, you should go to Brazil. There's a lot better looking girls down there. So I get down to Rio, and I'm living there. I'm doing my photos. And I said to someone, let's stay in touch. Let me get your address. And he goes, what do you mean? You don't have an email address? I'm like, email? Like, I didn't even know what an email address was. I mean, back then, this is the early 90s. So I get back home and I sign up for AOL. I had an AOL address, and I realized that I started going on these, they were called bulletin board services back then. There was no Telegram. There was no WhatsApp. There was something called ICQ, which we would all communicate with each other. And I started talking to people, and I realized that I could scan all the photos I was taking and trading and put them online. And I could build a website. So I started out with GeoCities. I started with Angel Fire, a lot of the free hosts. And I would go to work. I would come home, and all of a sudden my sites were down. So I would go on the BBS boards, on the ICQ groups, and I'd say, how do you guys keep your sites online? Like every day I go to work, I come home, and my sites are offline. They're like, well, you got to get a server. So I'm like, okay, I get on the computer, I buy myself a server. I think it was a Gateway. It comes, I plug it in, everything's going great. And all of a sudden, at the end of the month, we get a call. It was in my parents' basement. And they said, you owe like $10,000 in bandwidth fees. And my mom's like, what are you doing in there? I thought you were like playing games. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like games. So I go back on the BBS boards, I go on the ICQ, and I said, how do you guys afford this amount of bandwidth? It's like, well, you have to put a server in a data center. So I go through the yellow pages. Back then, when you wanted to find a business, there was a book and it was yellow, and you would go through them and find the business. So I was living in New Jersey at the time, and there was 3 companies in New York. I called them up and I said, I want to put a server at your data center. And they're like, yeah, that's what we do. We host servers. So I remember I got on the bus, I got on the train, I had my server under my arm, and I get there and they go, no, you're going to lease the server from us and we'll make sure it will never go down. So I put up my website, I go, got my server, and then all of a sudden people started asking me, like, how do you serve your sites? So I said, well, I got a server. And they're like, well, can we put our websites on your server? I'm like, sure. So I got one server, then that one server turned into a rack, a half rack. And by the time everything was going, I had a rack full or a cage full of servers in the data centers. And I was still an apprentice at the time. I was still coming out of my apprenticeship. But when I finally finished my apprenticeship and became a journeyman wireman, I started traveling around the country to Las Vegas, and I would work on their infrastructure for all the slot machines. And I would work on a lot of the infrastructure for the United States, which was airports, uh, high level, really like industrial commercial applications for electricity. And I remember coming back and we were building out one of the first data centers in Newark, New Jersey. And everybody, we were taking out the fiber optics from an old Bell Atlantic building. And everybody's like, what are we doing? And they're like, I don't know. They're going to put computers in this building. And so nobody really knew what was going on, but I did because I already had servers. So one day I go on the BBS boards and I was talking to everybody and they said, we're all going to go down to the Bahamas and we're going to meet. We're going to go on a cruise. So I'm like, okay, this is great. We're going to get down there. So I'm on the cruise and I don't know who anybody is because everybody back then, they didn't show their face. You know, it was like kind of like hidden of who you were. Everybody was anonymous. And I'm in the urinal in the bathroom and a guy looks over at me and he's like, and I'm like, what? He's like, do you want to have sex with my wife? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He goes, well, we're swingers and we have a website and that's how we find people to have sex with my wife. And I'm like, wait a minute, you guys have a website? I'm supposed to meet you guys. I didn't know who you were. So he's like, yeah, come on over. I'll invite you to everybody and introduce you to everybody. So I'm like, okay. And at that time, those were the biggest webmasters in the world. Everybody who was anybody was on that cruise. And I think that is why it's so important for people to go out and meet people in real life. Of course, if you can, because the amount of business that I've gotten from, of course, showing my face, of course, meeting people in person was very important of how we started. And I wasn't making money at this time. I was still just kind of doing it for fun. So I get back home and I call up the swingers and I said, listen, I want to learn what you guys are doing. You know, I mean, I'll do anything. I might even have sex with your wife. Just teach me. And he goes, why don't you come up to Montreal next month? We're going to have a big convention. So at this time, I've already had my license for electricity. I had my van. I was ready to become a big contractor. So I drive up to Montreal. I get there a day early and I meet a girl and she goes, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm here for the big convention. She goes, I heard about that. There's a lot of money in that, right? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not making money, but that's why I'm here. So I go to the convention and then there was hundreds of people and it was everybody at the time. And it was like all of a sudden I realized there's actually money in this business because back then you have to understand we were not able to actually process a credit card. In the early 90s, there was no way to process a credit card, not like today. You know, there was no PayPal, there was no Wise, there was none of these payment systems set up. So we were actually at the time getting a check, a money order. People were sending cash envelopes. But we started a system called the dialer. And it was where we could bill the client for the time that he spent on our website, would go right to his phone bill. And that's pretty much why we called it Jesus dialers. A lot of people ask me, like, what's with the Jesus branding and stuff like that? We obviously wanted to choose something or someone who was trusted, and we figured the best name would be the Jesus Dialers. And after that convention, I realized I needed to start going to more of these conventions and meeting people in real life. But it turned out I was going to now spend the next couple of years in Montreal. I called up the swingers. I said, I'm going to rent an apartment. I'll do whatever you want. Just teach me how to make money. And she said, okay. And I'm like, listen, I'll even have sex with your wife if that's what it takes. So they said, we're going to run ads in the newspaper and you're going to interview them. And every weekend, you'll drive the people out and they'll have sex with my wife. So I'm like, okay, this seems like an easy job. And as things started progressing, there would be people coming in, guys, girls, and they say, what do I have to do? And I'm like, well, you have to kind of get naked and, you might have to have sex with someone. And they're like, okay. And they're like, who do I have to have sex with? I'm like, well, you could start with me. And we started an audition site. It was like a casting couch. And it turned out that site and that program got so big. I was on the front cover of the Montreal Mirror. I was on the front cover of the Journal de Montreal. I was on the front cover of Vice magazine. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Vice brand, but they started out as a small blog, a small magazine at the time. And now they became Vice, and I was on the front cover. What happened was the immigration of Canada realized I was running the biggest porn company in Canada, bar none. We were shooting 3 shoots a day, and I'm not a Canadian citizen. I was an American. And they're like, you can't be doing this. Like you're one of the biggest companies at the time. I mean, everybody was coming up to shoot at our studios. So I had to get a visa. I set up the company properly. But that's when the late 90s started coming and everybody started realizing, wow, we can make money by doing this. But you'll realize that most of the big companies, the tube sites, a lot of the production companies came out of Montreal. And of course, Van Nuys, California. But Montreal was a hotbed of the biggest porn companies at the time because we were inviting people in, we were meeting with them, and all of us would go out every month for a dinner. And we kind of helped each other grow. So at that time, the late 90s, I realized, it's time to start to go on my own and build out my own program. I started one of the first affiliate programs for people that could send traffic to pay sites and get paid a percentage, whether it be a rev share program or pay per sign up. And I did that. And at the time, there were no tube sites. There was no YouTube. There was no social sites. It was pretty much just a lot of, we called them TGPs, thumbnail gallery posts. And then eventually they became MGPs, which were movie gallery posts. And I kind of knew everybody where I'm like, all I have to do is take my content, take 20 photos and upload them to the TGPs. And I would give a percentage to the TGP owners, or I would just buy the traffic from them. And I bought traffic on every TGP. I mean, I was pretty much the number one advertiser for that part of the industry. So at that time, I realized it's time for me to leave Montreal, but everything, the infrastructure was set up. I wanted to get back to traveling. So I jumped in my electrical van and I started driving around the country, the United States. And I would go to spring break. I would go to Mardi Gras. I would go to Lake Havasu for 4th of July, Lake Havasu for Memorial Day. I would go to all the events. And I'm sitting there shooting and a guy looks over at me and he goes, I see you at every event. Who do you shoot for? And I'm like, I shoot for myself. I got a website. And he goes, I'm like, who do you shoot for? And at the time, he was working for this company called Girls Gone Wild. And they were doing the DVD thing, and it was more like the publisher clearinghouse. And they said, do you want to shoot for us? And I'm like, yeah, but as long as I can keep the content, I need to keep it. They're like, yeah. I'm like, you get me into every party. I'll be there every week, every month. We were going to an event every month. So things start taking off. The company is getting bigger. A guy hits me up and says, listen, we want to do a business with you. I'm like, what do you want? He goes, I see you everywhere. All your sites are kind of just saturating the internet. We want to start a BPO, a business processing outsourcing company. I'm like, okay. He goes, we're going to do it in the Philippines. I'm like, okay. And at that time, you have to understand, there were no VAs. There was nothing where you could hire someone from another country and have them do all your work. So I said, all right, let's go. He said, talk to this guy, D. He'll put you on an airplane. He'll put you up at the Shangri-La. I get there and I said, okay, let's do business. What do we need to do? He said, all you have to do is hire 10 employees, 10 VAs, what's they're called now, and I'll give you a free manager. And I'm like, I don't need a manager. I want to live here. He goes, okay, come on, let's go. So we built up the company, and every weekend I started going scuba diving, and all my employees were from these smaller islands. And they're like, you man, you got to go to the islands. You'll love it out there. But what we were doing, we were flying in all of the big players at the time because we wanted to do business with them. We figured instead of going to the conventions, because a lot of these big webmasters, I think now they're called developers or agencies, we would fly them in. And then my job was to take them out and make sure they had a good time. Right. And those were the early days. I mean, the owner of OnlyFans was actually one of our clients at the time. He owned triple X password stealing sites and kind of that. There was no OnlyFans at that time. There were no fan sites. So we were flying everybody in. We'd make sure we put them up at the Shangri-La, make sure everything was taken care of. And that's how we build our customer base. Well, it turned out as my company started to grow, I realized I didn't want to be in a big city. I wanted to go scuba diving every week. I wanted to go scuba diving every day. So I told my partners, listen, it's time for me to leave. I want to go open the company in a smaller island. And they said to me, you can't. I said, why? What's the problem? And they said, you have a non-compete clause. And I said, okay, I respect that, but you have to understand that I'll pay you whatever you think I owe you. But at that time, I was already getting my citizenship because I already learned from being thrown out of Canada for not having a proper visa that I knew that if I was going to invest that much into a business and into eventually real estate, I needed to have a citizenship from that country. So I went through the process and I wound up moving islands and I started with a resort right on the beach. I lived on the third floor. The second floor was all of the offices, and the main floor was for all my employees. I made sure that we were running 3 shifts. We had at the time over 80 employees, and the resort they could use with their family. They could do whatever they want. And I brought in 2 chefs to make sure they never had to leave. And I think that was very important to treating my employees well, treating them with respect. Even if they were probably more educated than me, and they were definitely more hardworking. And a lot of people that hire VAs from countries that maybe don't have the same economic advantage, they don't treat their employees very well. They treat them as they're disposable. Like, since I'm paying you so little, they don't treat them well. And I learned by living with my employees, by being there, that these employees needed to be treated well. And I think that's very important, and people should really take that into consideration when they're hiring someone from another country, that the dollar goes or their currency goes a lot longer away. Well, it turned out as the company started to grow, again, my company was growing really good. And my old partners from the city called me and they said, we want to buy you. We see you everywhere. Everything, it's just, you're everywhere. And that was because I had this team and we had a structure, we had SOPs set up, and that's very important again. And you need to set up and be organized, and you need to take chances. You find something that works, you duplicate it, you replicate it. And it's the same thing what I'm doing today with the phone farms and all of our automation. So I said to them, and I called my partners in Montreal, who I still had, and that's very important again, is having the right partners, people that are going to push as hard as you can, but also you're able to take up the slack if they're having personal issues or they have something going on. But getting the right partners from the beginning is so important. If you find that somebody really can't take up the slack and work together, it's probably not a good. And we communicate constantly. So I called up my partners in Montreal and I said, listen, these guys want to buy us. What do you want to do? And by this time, we were already into it for 12 years. And when just when you're a company owner, it's not 9 to 5. You're working 12, 16 hours a day. So we said, let's throw out the number times 10. Whatever we're making this year, we'll just times it by 10. He comes back and he goes, yeah, we'll buy it. So I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I don't have to work for the next 10 years and I'm just going to make the same amount of money that I'm making now. And he goes, yeah, that's it. So I wound up selling the company and I wound up buying a scuba diving resort. I wound up putting my money into condominiums and buildings because I was going to the city. When I built my resort, I wound up, it was a very, very island. It didn't really have good electricity. There was brownouts, they call them, or blackouts, or however you want it. We were losing power, but it didn't matter to me because I sold the company. I didn't need to be online all the time. So it turns out I probably was not smart enough to buy Bitcoin at that time. Everybody was buying Bitcoin at like $100 a coin. Like I'm like hanging out with these guys, right? And I'm
I'm
like,
like,
oh, that's a scam. That's a scam. I'm like, I'm gonna put my money into real estate. I'm gonna buy beach properties. I'm gonna buy condominiums. And I'm just gonna, and this was before Airbnb also. You have to understand, like these are the early days. And I was really good at building out accounts, working with how search works. So I was able to get all of my condos at the top of Airbnb when it was first launched in those countries. I get a call from my mom, and she says, "Listen, your dad's got dementia. Can you come home to take care of him?" And I said, "Of course." So I got on a flight. I come back, and I'm now back in New York, New Jersey, and I'm taking care of my dad. And I said to my mom, I said, "Listen, can I go back to work as an electrician? You know, I'll have breakfast with my dad. I'll have dinner, and during the day, I'll just go work." And I went back to work as an electrician. That was always my safe spot. I mean, it's what I did growing up. It's something that I love. And again, it's problem solving. A lot of people ask me again till this day, like, how do you choose what to do? And it's constant problem solving. When Meta changes their algorithm or changes, moves over a button 1 pixel, you have to solve that problem and you need to change. So I go back, and now we're building out at that time the national grid. We're talking about all of the high voltage was being redone. That a lot of the infrastructure in the United States was built in the 1960s and it started to fail. So I'm in the yards and I'm working. I went and got my license to be a high voltage splicer. I'm a high voltage splicer, and I see a guy in a crane, and I'm like, that guy seems like he has the best job. And they're like, yeah, he's one of us. And I'm like, how do I do that? And they're like, well, you need to get your crane operator's license. So I'm like, okay. I call up my business agent. I go, he goes, yeah, you got to go to school. I'm like, okay, I'll just send myself to school. So I sent myself to school to become a crane operator. And now I'm qualified to operate swing cabs all over the country. And I realized as long as I'm in the cab, I can now have my computer next to me and my phone, which, like, again, when we first started, there were no smartphones. And I realized I can now be on my phone, I can be on my computer, I can be running the crane and getting paid at the same time, collecting a pension, collecting an annuity, collecting all my benefits. So my brother calls me up, and my brother works, he is a high level marketer. We were working for some of the biggest company. He goes, I got a job for you. I go, what do you need? What do you want me to do? He goes, we're working with, at the time, like Ticketmaster, Live Nation, MTV, Spike TV, Nickelodeon. And he's running this show where we would do car races all around the United States. We would race from New York to Miami, from Miami to Dallas, from Dallas to LA, of course, breaking laws. And it was a TV show, right? So it turns out this one guy kept winning. Him and this team, they would take out the back seats and just put gas tanks so they wouldn't have to stop the whole way across the United States. And they said, we're going to pitch a TV show for these guys and see if we can actually build a show around them. And at first, Spike TV, they turned it down. They're like, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work, because what our plan was, they were going to buy old cars, we were going to fix them up, and when we were going to sell them. And they're like, that's kind of stupid. Discovery Channel realized this is a show. We're going to go for it. They said, if you want to do this show, you have to move to Dallas. You have to move to Texas. So I'm like, I love Texas. And at that time, my dad already passed away. And my mom's like, yeah, go for it. So my brother and I, we moved to Texas. That's why I got the Texas hat. That's why I'm now dressed as, I love Texas. It was exactly what the United States meant to be. And I might not have been born in Texas, but I got there as fast as I could. So we're out in Texas and we start doing this TV show, and we realized all the traffic now is coming from social media. And this, Facebook was still in its infancy. It wasn't Facebook what Facebook has become. And a big part of why Facebook was different was because of the lookalike audiences, was because of the retargeting pixel. And nobody understood that. And we understood right away, if we could start selling t-shirts, if we could start selling hats. Again, people ask me, where do I get all these hats? Where do I get all these t-shirts? We realized if we could get a good database that was their names, their addresses, because they had to have these products shipped to them, we could build lookalike audiences. And that was the secret back then. A lot of people didn't know. They just thought it was a social network that you would build a profile and then start spamming or putting your content online. It wasn't that. It was the retargeting pixel. It was the lookalike audiences. And that's where we grew. So eventually we built up the t-shirt, the hat business, and was able to license those products to Walmart. We did a worked on a energy drink. We started sponsoring all the big motorsports, NHRA, Formula One, monster trucks, and it just grew. It just went. So eventually the show ran its course and I was still in Texas. And what I already knew was how to make t-shirts, make hats. And that was all the way going back again to the 1990s, where I used to travel around with the Grateful Dead band and sell t-shirts in the parking lots and posters. So I knew about how to build products. I knew how to market them, not only by wearing them and knowing what is happening and what's good, but by also marketing it online. And again, that's where your your content is very important. Like a lot of people will say, listen, I want to give you money. I want to give you $100,000. Just make it happen. And I'm like, yeah, but your content sucks. It's not going to work. It's just by throwing money at it, by throwing traffic at it, it's not guaranteed to work. It doesn't matter how many accounts you have, how much automation you have set up. If your content is not good from the rip, it's just not going to work. So at that time, I realized there was something called Amazon, fulfillment by Amazon to be exact. And what I did was I went back to become an electrician and I worked in the robotics car factory for General Motors. And I'm working and I realized a lot of the guys I'm working with were from these South American, Latin American countries, and they were using products I've never seen before. And I said to them, where did you get that? And they're like, oh, a little bodega in the east part of the city. And so I said, okay. And I went down there one weekend and this place was just jammed. It was like shopping carts full of things I've never seen before. But I figured, let me see what they're buying. I'll buy the same thing. I go on Amazon and I realized those products aren't on Amazon. I knew that if I went to these warehouses, I could buy a box, a pallet, and eventually containers and send them right to Amazon. And these were products where if somebody just came across the border, for example, and they needed a soap or a shampoo that they grew up with, that their grandparents, their parents, they used their whole life, they weren't going to go down to this small bodega in a part of the city. They could just go on Amazon and order it. And the next day, it was there at their house. So things started taking off. I had a fulfillment by Amazon store. Everything's going great. And COVID happens. All of a sudden, COVID starts. And my mom says, listen, I kind of need help. She's elderly. She said, can you come back and help? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I call up my Amazon suppliers and I said, I need a container. We got to ship it into Amazon. He goes, I can't. I go, why? He goes, I can't get anything else. Everything's sold out. The whole infrastructure of everything. I mean, people were waiting in line, right, for toilet paper at that time, right? So I'm back at home. I go back to electricity again. Electricity was always my fallback. It's a time where I can put on my headphones and just start listening to podcasts, listening to YouTube channels like we're doing now, and just listen and get information. And I could get paid at the same time. I can get my pension, my annuity. And all of a sudden I get a call from one of my friends and he goes, listen, one of the biggest webcam companies is looking for you. And I said, what do they want? Like, I don't know them any money. They go, I think they want to hire you. So I give them a call. I said, all right, what do you need me to do? They're like, we want you to run all of our organic growth. We heard that you're the guy, you're the man. Let's do it. So I said, okay. I said, the only thing is I'm not moving from Texas or New York, New Jersey. I want to stay, I wanted to be close. And they're like, yeah, everybody works from home from now. Because at the time of COVID, all of a sudden, everybody's working from home. So I realized, all right, I'm now back into the adult scene. And there was a show out in Las Vegas called Internext and AVN. And I go there, and there was a bunch of us old school webmasters. Not a lot of people came out, but there was this one couple sitting in the corner. And the guy kind of looked weird. He had his sunglasses on. He had was wearing the gloves. Everybody's wearing masks at the time. And nobody wanted to talk to him. I said, dude, the guy's in the business. I'm going to go talk to him. So I go up to him and I say, what do you guys do? He goes, we do OF. right? And he shows me his phone. I go, OF, what's OF? I never heard of it. He shows me his phone and I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys are doing that amount, just YouTube. Like, and it was into the hundreds of thousands. I'm like, holy shit. So I realized that this was now a thing and they were taking off. I mean, that's where they started, pretty much running ads for news articles. And that was a big part of what we do also is when we want to launch a product, we'll send out press releases. And it's, of course, great for search engine or what we call parasite SEO. And of course, that was where they became big. And I knew the owner. I already knew the owner from meeting and bringing him out to Vanilla. So everything stopped. COVID kind of went away, and it was still kind of things were easing up. And I realized now is the time for me to move to Colombia. And I've been traveling to Colombia for over 10 years, but also a lot of the big cam studios for this webcam company were based out of Colombia, Romania, but those were the main ones. And I already knew most of the studio owners. Some of the studio owners in Colombia will have tens of thousands of cam girls working for them. They actually take, at that time, since a lot of the hotels were not doing well because of tourism, they created cam studios out of a lot of these hotels. So I went down there and now I'm going to,
2021, right?
excuse me?
The year was 2021, like the start of the COVID?
Yeah, well, this was as COVID was ending, things were easing up. Like you were now allowed to travel, you were allowed to walk around without a mask, right?
Yeah.
So I get down there and let's just say that it's an interesting place to live. I mean, since I was already traveling down there for 12 years, it was still kind of like the Wild West. There weren't that many, let's say, passport bros or narco tourism going. Well, there was always a lot of narco tourism, but the cam industry was the main thing. There were no OF agencies. So I spoke to a couple people and I said, I'm down here to start an OF agency. And they're like, what is that? So I introduced it and they're like, okay. The first guy that I got involved with was, again, a total bullshit scam. I mean, I went back up to the US to do some stuff. I come back and it was bullshit. Again, going back to how important it is to find the right partners, the right people you're doing business. You have to vet them and get to know them. I obviously didn't know this person well enough. I met him at the conventions, but he was my only contact down there. So I wind up calling up another studio owner and I was telling him what I was doing. And he goes, why don't you just move into my studio? I'm like, okay. So now I'm living in a cam studio. And this guy was also, he was a Jesus guy at the time, but he would come in and bring these girls in that didn't want the normal 9 to 5 schedule of working with the studio. They would just come in for an hour or two, do his show with him, and they would leave and they would get paid. So everything was working great. And all of a sudden, I was out at dinner one night and I get kind of like these stomach aches. And I'm like, I get back home and till the next morning, I'm still in pain. So I go downstairs, I go, bro, you got to take me to the hospital. And he goes, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. We get to the hospital and it turns out, I got gallstones. And they're just like, you got to have an operation. And meanwhile, I didn't speak Spanish. I've never spoken Spanish at the time, even though I was living there and trying to speak Spanish. But they started letting me in there. And I guess they kind of said, well, we're not ready to do the operation. And one day turned into 1 week, 1 week turned to 1 month. I was in the hospital for months. And a lot of the credit cards that I was using to pay for my infrastructure started to not rebuild. And my company went to nothing. And of course, they were charging me every day to be in the hospital. Eventually, I was able to contact someone and they said, hey, listen, we got to do this operation. And I get out, but I'm pretty much broke. Everything is done. Like I had nothing. I was enough to get back to the United States, go back to Texas and work out my store. I had a store where we were also doing sneaker bot farms where we were buying the Jordans and be able to sell vintage clothing. And I said, listen, I got to shut this down. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I had nothing. I was broke. So I go back to New Jersey and of course, what do? I go back to be an electrician. And I'm like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do here. But I already knew at the time, I knew that mobile was where we had to be because if we didn't have phones, if we weren't using our phone to be able to market, because at the time, This was probably where I met you or became known of you. I didn't meet you, but I knew of you because the only automation software at the time was something called Jarvie, right? And it was hard. It was very, very difficult. It was like hitting a wall. And I came upon your channel. I'm like, this girl gets it. She knows. And I guess within a month or whatever happened, they shut down the program. I guess there was problems with being web-based that Meta probably kind of could block it. And we moved everything to mobile. And we were using emulators. We were using BlueStacks. But I realized I need real devices. If I wasn't using real devices and building out my own automation tools, the company and the business had no infrastructure. So I started working with a team and we started saying, okay, let's build out the automation. We're going to do everything on mobile. We're going to do everything with real devices. So again, I travel every month to meet people. I come back to my studio and most of the phones, they're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They started bloating. The batteries started to actually like pop. And its batteries could be a safety issue. They could go on fire. So we knew we needed a cooling system. We were in Texas at the time. I had a warehouse starting. It was started out as out of my store, and we were have fans going on these phones. And we realized we needed something better. We needed to actually take apart the phone. We need to remove the battery, and we really didn't need a screen because we could eventually just use our tools, our controllers from the computer and be able to connect the phones through the USB port. So we built out that and we started building our automation and things started going well after that. We realized we could actually build the infrastructure, not have to worry about batteries. Yes, I still need do batteries, but now being in a data center and having that cooling, because again, I'm able to do the high voltage for what a data center actually needs, requirements for the amount of electricity being used. The cooling is incredible. I mean, I'm in there with a winter coat sometimes. It's you need to keep your infrastructure. You need to keep your phones cool. Eventually, they're going to pop or blow up if you're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So now I come back and we're starting to go again. And I realized my mom passes away, sadly. And my sister says, you need to come back to New Jersey. We got to sell the house. I come back and like, we got to build this phone farm out now. This is the time where we're just going to go balls out. We're going to call up every supplier, try to get every phone we can, start building out this infrastructure, but we're going to build out of a data center. And again, people call me up and they said, we want to work with you. I'm like, well, right now, the easiest thing to do is just send me the boxes, send me whatever you need, and I will host them. And building out what we do, it's everything where we do the build outs for the boxes, for the hardware. We also have the controllers. We also have what you need to actually create an account. I have enterprise accounts with all the major telecoms. So we're able to get enough numbers, enough SIM cards that we created a way of doing the SMS verification. So if you want to open up 1,000 social media accounts, we can provide you with 1,000 phone numbers to be able to verify those numbers. So in addition, as I started to travel, I realized a lot of people were targeting the United States for their audience. And we needed proxies. So we started building out the proxies. And what makes mobile proxies unique to residential proxies or in data center proxies is that they can be changed. Like we'll go into, again, the airplane mode and then reset it. And all of a sudden you got a fresh proxy. It's the same thing as if you travel, and as you travel around, your phone is always connecting to another tower and your IP address is always rotating. It's always changing. So when you're building out a social account, you want to make sure that you're building them off of 5G mobile proxies, if that's your goal. Do residential proxies still work? Yes, depending on the case of you're using them. Do data center proxies use? Yes, they could work. But when it comes to some of the high level accounts, when you're doing the Instagrams, the dating sites, the dating accounts, I recommend using 5G mobile proxies. So that is a big part of what we do. And then, of course, there's guys that want to send SMS, which I don't get into as much because the laws are very strict on what you're sending and how you collect your data, how you send it. And is it possible? Yes. Is it harder? Yes. But those are pretty much the things that we're running into now. But I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I hope that this didn't drag on too long. Of course, you're welcome to edit it and speed up parts. And hopefully I can answer everything you guys have for me. How's the room look?
Sorry, how what?
How does your room look in your, not your room, but your YouTube? Tell me a little bit about yourself too, because bet you when you were first doing Jarvie, and then eventually I know that you were involved. I know Tal. I bought proxies from him. He had the social proxies and the whole team of whoever you recommend. You vet them highly. I always realize that your groups, your infrastructure, your team, they're very good because I go to a lot of groups and I realize there's a lot of spam. There's people that aren't into the industry for as long as we have been, and it's hard to trust people. So, but are there new players coming up? Yes. Are there new guys that have strategies, have infrastructure? Absolutely. These young guys that are doing social now understand it because they were born with it. When they grew up, they already had a phone in their hand right away when they were a baby. Maybe even their parents created them a social account. So they understand it completely. So I'm not saying a lot of the older guys that I know and I know, they don't get it that much. They're kind of like looking at their phone. They're like, hold on, what's going on here? You know, so
Yeah,
so
with a
yeah,
good.
but
Wow, yeah. Yeah, just I just want to say, like, more like you have like a crazy journey. Like I now I think me and I'm sure also like the people here, like now I understand much more of like how you got yourself into this point of like all of the phone farms, and it's pretty amazing because you actually started I think long time ago before many of the people in this game, and also you understand it much better, which is amazing. And I also just try to understand. So basically now what you can offer to people all around the world, it's like your infrastructure. Like I can, for example, if I don't want to have my own found farm over here in my house, or I don't want to get the responsibility for that because, as you said, there is a lot of things inside that I get involved to. I can pay to get my infrastructure like with you done for me, and I can also pay. For example, let's say I don't need a phone farm. I'm just like an agency OF, and I have I don't know 100 clients, and I want to get kind of like a dashboard or like like Jarvie, but for phone farms, can I do the same like both of these things?
yes. What I suggest before you start with a phone farm or multiple phones is start with one phone, one account, and prove the concept. Because if you could prove your content works, then you could build multiple accounts on that one phone. You don't need a whole phone farm or a bank of phones until you've proven that your content, your strategy works on one phone. Once you have one phone working, yeah, then you can get another phone depending on how many ports, USB ports, can connect. And yes, we could provide everybody with the controller for being able to control your phones from your computer. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to give all of your followers a free controller. So that's part of my being thankful to what, and many other things I'll give for free. Part of the way I work is I can give out free trials, and if somebody says, you made me money, I'm going to pay you now. But I don't want them to invest heavily until they've are actually making money. So yes, controllers, being able to control multiple phones, one phone from your one dashboard, the same way as Jarvie. I don't even know if Jarvie's around anymore. I haven't gone back there, but I know they changed eventually into Sue Social or something like that. And agreed, a lot of the people that are running these systems I work with, I talk to, I share secrets, I trade information. As soon as I wake up, I have a meeting with somebody and we work together. We're not competitors. And I think that's very, very important in this industry where don't look at people as if they're the competition because there's always something that you can collaborate with and collaborate on. So yes, having a phone, and let's say you wanted to build out on one phone multiple social accounts. Yes, I can provide you with all of the phone numbers for over 750 different platforms to be able to verify that account. So let me tell you what I think makes a good account and why you need a good trust score. I don't buy aged accounts. Like people say, well, I want to buy an aged account. And I go, why? What makes you think that an account that's built possibly in a third world country with a third world audience, with a third world IP address is going to give you the amount of trust when you're trying to target to the US audience? If you're trying to target to that country, of course, it makes sense to be able to create an account in that country on their IP address and be able to use phone numbers that will be able to verify them. So, building the trust score right off the rip. So, starting out, you want to do a factory reset. And a lot of people say, well, I got an old phone. How do I know this phone wasn't used for spamming before? Do a factory reset. That's the best you can do. If you can't afford a brand new phone, then, I mean, we use S25s all the way into S26 Samsungs. We find those to be good, but they're expensive. The telecoms give them to me because of our enterprise accounts. But starting out with one phone that has a factory reset, I suggest using the Samsung 20. That's a great phone. It's got a great processor. It's not going to hang up as much, and you can build on it. You know, that's a good phone. Of course, if you can afford the S26s and bigger, but it's affordable on the used market. So starting out with a Samsung S20 factory reset, opening up account. Now, a lot of people have different strategies when it comes to, let's say, Instagram. There are people which we provide with our software is a warm up phase where you can warm up the account that does everything a human would do: follow, unfollow, scrolling, liking, commenting, DMing. If a human does it, we can set that. We have that in our automation. And if we don't have it, we can build it. I have a team of developers, and that's all we work on is the automation tools, the proxies, the numbers. So when it comes to telecom, like I said, it comes to where we want to make sure that these accounts are safe. There's a big investment. But then again, there's a lot of guys that have the strategy of what they do is they'll call the suicide mission, and they just open up accounts and they might be dead within 24 hours, but the cost of the investment has already given them the return on investment back, that they don't care if the account's dead. You'll find people that have accounts that they get into the thousands to 10,000, they get 1 million followers, and all of a sudden their account is banned. They're crying. They're like, oh my God, my account got banned. Can you help me get it back? Yes, I don't really, that's not my main business. There are ways of doing it. And that's again, going to these conventions and meeting with the reps from these major platforms is how I get those connections, is going to these conventions and saying, hey, you're working for them. They see you eventually, and you can sit down with them. And of course, if you spend a lot of money on ads, you're going to get a lot more help. So creating an account, warming it up, using a good proxy or a good IP address. In our case, we use phones to build. We don't use SIM farms. We don't use any type of thing. We actually create all of our accounts, all of our proxies on real devices, which in my opinion, I think are better than trying to use data center proxies or residential proxies. But then again, like I said, it depends on your strategy and what you're trying to do. There are other things where you can upload contact cards. There's other things where now you can start uh, creating content. And right now, it seems like AI is the biggest thing. And again, this is only something that started happening within the last couple of years. We kind of grew up with this now. And are people making money from AI? Absolutely. And a lot of the creators are actually doing a hybrid. They'll create an AI character for their real self and be able to then use those on the social platforms. Because let's be honest, it's difficult to make 1,000 reels or 1,000 TikToks. It's easier if you do it in AI. Of course, you need to change the metadata if you're using the same content across multiple accounts. Then you need a little bit more stuff. Yes, we do offer that. We do cloning. When we do cloning, we will clone the accounts and change the IMEI number. So there is technical parts of that, which is very important when you start getting into creating thousands, tens of thousands of accounts. It's really infinite. If you want to open up a million accounts. Is it possible? Yes. Is it smart? Not until you've proven that one account works. If you've never proven that your one account is working, there's no reason to start 10 accounts, 100 accounts, 1,000 accounts. There's no reason to start with one a phone. And, I know guys that will start buying phones and they're like, what do I do now? How do I work this? And I'm like, maybe you should have figured that out before. So again, I don't really take on clients that are just trying to throw money at me. It's not my thing at this point. I'd rather work with someone who has a proven system, a proven strategy, their content works, and I honestly want to help them. It's more about doing a good job and having the reputation where if somebody said it didn't work, I'm like, well, it might have been the content, it might have been your strategy. All I can do is replicate what you're already doing. I can only automate. Yes, I can give you the secrets and the tricks and the little things, but you should have watched this episode and I would have told you anyway. I'm not a gatekeeper. If somebody hits me up and asks a question, I'm going to give it to them. I'm not going to be like, well, you have to hire me first to get that. It's not about what I do. I'm going to give you all the information. And if you decide to work with me later, that's fine. That's great. And it's the same thing. If somebody wanted like a free automation tool, it's like, yeah, just use it. Am I going to give you as much support if you have a free? Probably not. I'll keep sending you more tutorials and it helps me build out a knowledge base of why are these questions continuously being asked over and over and over. If you do your research, the information is out there. Is there a secret sauce that comes out every week, every day? Yeah. And that's why it's important to be part of these groups, to have a network that you can rely on and be somewhat associated with the higher tier guys. And some people say, well, why do you mess around in those accounts? I have fun. I mean, I love meeting people. I love trolling in a way. I mean, I've gotten thrown out of a lot of groups for some of the other t-shirts I wear. I mean, right now I'm wearing a Jesus shirt. So, but
Oh,
some of the hats, I mean, the companies will send me hats and their gear because they know I wear them. They know I'm not going to put them in a closet and only take them out for a special occasion. So you'll see a lot of and I have a whole closet full of them. I mean, some people think I wear the same shirt every day, but since I travel so much, I'll get a bunch of shirts, I'll wear them, and instead of doing laundry, I'll wind up giving them out or giving them out for free. So, but yeah, those are some rare shirts. Some shirts I've had for over 20 years, 30 years, stuck in a closet, and I break them out. So, but let's go to your group and see what kind of questions they have. I don't want to
yeah,
leave you guys hanging.
sure.
So, if you want me to read them, or do you want to read them?
Yeah, I can put it on the screen and you can read it. And yes, there are like many questions also from the next post group, which is great. I'm happy to see experienced people over here and big names. So let's start with this question. You go.
Okay, what's the biggest benefit of mobile farming? Well, like I said, when it comes to mobile, you're going to have, depending again on what your goal is, what your strategy, if we're doing dating sites, if we're doing dating marketing, a lot of those and a lot of social marketing too is lives on a phone. When you go and try to open up that app on a web device or on a desktop, it's not the same. You'll realize there's a lot of buttons that are missing. So a lot of the social strategies we do are on the social apps that are built for mobile. They're not the same when it comes to web. And I think that the trust score, they want the reason why phones are so important to these platforms is because they know who you are. They know where you are. They know who your contacts are. They've already built a whole back end of who this demographic is on your phone. So then again, it's very important when you create accounts, you have to add cookies to those phones. You don't just go in with a fresh phone. That's not normal, where all of a sudden you start throwing up 100 different reels or putting up content. You have to start slowly. There's a warm-up phase. And when it comes to mobile, the you'll find out that a lot of these platforms are geolocated. Like we are using now a lot of wearables. Like these I don't wear for fashion. It might look like I'm fashionable, but I'm not. I wear these because we're actually helping businesses get local SEO, be the top of the map pack. And again, we can guarantee Any company that has a brick and mortar can be the number, within the map pack of the local search. So using mobile phones, these platforms know who you are. They know where you are. They know who's in the same general area as you. They know what we're saying right now. Even though you turn off your phone, something's listening and they're going to start now targeting you with ads. And again, if you're trying to target a specific product, you want to make sure that when you warm up those accounts are specific to those products that you're trying to sell. You'll get a higher reach. You'll get on the For You page of the product that you're trying to sell or the niche. So that's very important when you're warming up your farms, your mobile phone, let's say with one, and then building it out, is targeting the right audience on your phone. And there's no reason to ever go to desktop because, again, emulators, they don't work anymore. For some, they might work. Yeah. I mean, you could still use the multi browsers with Twitter, where we have a system that uses ads power. So if your viewers aren't familiar with ads power, you could build thousands of accounts using these multi browsers, connect them to a proxy, and then each one of those accounts lives as a separate account. But can you do that on Instagram? No. No. Can you do that on most of the big dating accounts? No. Twitter, yes, you could still do it on. A lot of the smaller, unsophisticated platforms, you could probably still use multi-browsers and automation on them. But when you're getting into the more difficult, the traffic that's more in volume, they're more they're a billion-dollar company. They're always trying to like fight what we're doing, and we're trying to stay one head of against them. Now, when we change the IP address, they can't block our IP addresses if it's a data center range of IP addresses or residential, they can block that whole range. But they can't do that with mobile because what will happen is they'll knock out the tower or legitimate real users because if they're trying to block, but that's not how mobile IP addresses work anyway. So yeah, the benefits of mobile farming is being able to actually do exactly what the platforms want you to do. They want you to be on your phone. And yeah, I mean, and again, once you find a system and a strategy that works, it's a pretty good idea to start throwing some ads at it because that's going to guarantee your supply. But you need to first figure out the strategy, the content that's working, and then yeah, start throwing ads at it. But that's giving up your cards. Now everybody will know what you're doing because there's the library. You can go and look at the other ads of what other companies are doing. So, but it's always staying ahead of the pack and working with people that can, again, like yourself and working with your group. There's very talented, very knowledgeable people in your group, and it's great that they share. I mean, if everybody's gatekeeping, we're not going to grow as an industry, as a business. Yeah, there's always going to be guys that gatekeep, but what are you going to do? I mean, that's why you fly out and meet them. Like if you want to do business with that person, get on a plane and meet them if you think it's worth it. So those face-to-face in real meetings is very important. So I hope I answered your question on the benefits of mobile marketing.
Yeah, yeah, I think you did great. And I will just add something small if we speak about social media that it's also much more stable if you compare it to any type of any other solution. I think it's really, really stable. So also the results. Another one for you from Johnny. I think Johnny is asking you.
Johnny, okay. When it comes to accounts, now you could build out multiple accounts on per device or per account. What you're going to run into is you only have 24 hours a day in a day, and you cannot run automation simultaneously on that phone on multiple accounts. So if you're going to, my strategy starting out the warm up phase is I only build 6 accounts per device. And the reason why is I use 4 hours of automation per account. So 6 times 4 equals,
24. Yeah.
yes. So 24 hours in a day, and I will run that automation as the warm up phase. So yeah, you could build as many accounts as you really want by cloning the accounts, but you're not going to be able to run automation that actually shows, in this case, IG is going to say, okay, this guy or this person, this account is surfing, they're following people, they're doing everything a human being would do. And when you open a new account, most people, they start out at, let's say, 4 hours a day. They'll wake up, oh, let me see what's going on. They'll, during their break or their morning coffee, they'll go on their account and start scrolling and liking. Again, now during lunchtime, their lunch break, they'll go online again. And then after work, they might go online before they go to sleep. So, in my opinion, that's about 4 hours of usage time. Now, the account will then get warmed up, and then you'll start seeing your, hopefully your content will land on the For You page, and the For You page is obviously the holy grail. That's where you want to be. And the way that, if you study, I mean, this isn't a secret, if you look at everything that the strategic guys that are running IG accounts, is it comes down to engagement, how much your account or your content is being viewed. So you want to make sure that the person's going to watch it from beginning to end. And there's a lot of strategies where people are using longer paragraphs in their comments or in their reels. So the guy is actually reading while the reel is playing in the background. And now it's being played multiple times. So now the engagement looks like your content is being viewed more. You also want to make sure that people are going to start following you based on that content, commenting, and which we do have comment bonding. We do a comment bot, which can help improve your engagement score. So yeah, when it comes to IG and when it comes to phone farming, I only start out with 6 accounts per device, running 4 hours of automation. And then once I see that this account is working, I might break it off. Some accounts work, some accounts don't, even though they have the same exact content, the same geolocation, the same device, everything might have been done correctly, but for some weird reason, not all of accounts work. And we don't know, that's kind of like part of, being, hoping your account's going to work. But of course, if you find one account, you can break that off. But then there's other guys who might run 24 accounts at an hour a day. So it's less automation, but more accounts, less time being automated. Is Meta going to give you more love and put you on the For You page? Maybe not. They're like, oh, this guy's not an addict. He's not really like, spending and wasting his whole day on our platform. That's kind of what they want you to do. And as you go on their platform, they obviously give you ads. And, that's how they make their money. They want you to, it's called brain rot, right? They want to rot your brain by scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So, Johnny, I hope that answered your question, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dagmore. We have a few more.
Sure. Okay, so which phone farm is best for future, Android and iPhone, and why do you suggest? Okay, so for one, iPhones are going to be more expensive. They're going to cost more, and you're not going to be able to remove the battery. You're not going to be able to remove the screen. We do use them, and it's mostly for sending messages and stuff like that. But also, there is a thought that the trust score is higher because Apple is more of a closed environment. You can't run as many automation. You can't do as much as you can with Android. So the phones, just buying the phones, are going to be more expensive than buying a used Android. When you're buying an S20 and an iPhone 15 or a comparable one, you're always going to find out that Apple's going to be more expensive. Is the cost worth it? It might be for some people. Yes, it definitely, for the people that need that trust score, that are doing things that only Apple can give you. Yes, you're going to need an Apple phone. But when it comes to the guys that are just kind of in the, I want volume, the Android is going to be able to do a lot more. You're going to be able to run a lot more automation. You're going to be able to take those phones apart, and in the long run, it's going to be cheaper. So it really depends on your strategy. I'm not going to say one is better, depending on what your use case scenario is. So now also you have to understand, we are getting into how sophisticated some of these big gaming, banking platforms are, where if your battery is at 100% all the time, that's not normal. You need to turn that charger off sometimes. And we will then put the phone into, let's say, let the battery run down to 80%, bring it up to 90. So there's a lot of platforms that, why is this guy's phone always at 100%. That's not normal, right? There's, like it's always plugged in. And then there's even other ones that are getting more sophisticated where they know if your phone is always in that horizontal position, just laying there in a. So we now have to start using, like, say, the watch chargers where the phone is actually moving. And when we're doing the local SEO, we're actually taking phones on location, checking in, like, and actually leaving Google reviews. So, I mean, I've gone to places and actually bought a whole bank of farms phones with me to only do able to now give the reviews, make it look like that phone is actually moving. And that will help a lot of the people that are doing local SEO, where if you put in the keyword that you're targeting and then drive to that location based on what the keyword you are, and then when you get to that location, check in, like, and then leave a review, that location is going to be higher on local SEO. So I don't want this people to think all we're doing is trying to market on the social platforms. It goes way further now when it comes to local SEO, which comes to a lot of the, when it comes to gaming, when it comes to those type of people are actually paying a lot of money. So you really have to figure out what your strategy is, what you're trying to accomplish. So is the Android better? In some cases, yes. Is the iPhone better for trust score? Possibly, yes, of course. But again, you're not going to be able to do some things, and it really depends. So hopefully that answered your question. If not, then you can ask more questions. I'm here all day.
Thank you. Oh, wait, it's got. This is the second question about AI.
Okay, now that AI is integrated into social media apps, how can we reduce the defecting by apps? Which things you recommend? Well, I mean, just last week, Grokbot came out, and you're able to do things that are insanely crazy by setting up agents and automation. I think that is the future of using agents, using them properly or figuring them out. That obviously is where you want to be. Claude has some good stuff. They seem to pull back a little, and obviously ChatGPT. But I think what happened last week, I don't know how familiar with your users or your followers or everybody in your groups, but I think Grokbot is now a game changer, but the whole agents in general. So let me go back to your question again. How is AI integrated into social media apps? It's going to be using a lot more automation, using the agents and setting them up. Now, that always goes back to the prompts. If you're not giving the AI the right prompts, or, there's going to be guys that are really good at it, and there's going to be guys that try to use, which you can use the AI, use the LMs to be able to create the prompts and be able to then tell the agents what you want to do and just keep going back and tweaking. And again, that's goes back to, can you do everything by yourself? I don't. I mean, I have a team, I have the infrastructure, but again, keeping those people that you work with happy, close, and honest. My employees get a lot of people trying to hire them, and they say, some guys have been with me for over 20 years. And when times were bad, I still paid them. Like, I always paid them. I never said, listen, the client didn't pay me, so I'm not paying you. That's not my style. I'm going to pay you no matter what. And some of these employees, I help them send their kids to college. I help them build houses, and they are part of my business. And without them, I would not be as successful as I am. It really is building the infrastructure, but having them work on things and solve problem solving. Again, maybe that goes back to my electrical interest and my background, of being into electricity. It's, you have to solve these problems, but being in a team and talking, like, again, today I had a morning meeting with some very intelligent guy from Germany, and he knows what's going on. He's young, he is out there, and he is doing everything right. And those are the kind of people that I like to align myself with, because I don't know everything. And being part of your group, you'll find out that somebody's going to drop that nugget. I dropped a couple nuggets in this, I hope, that people picked up. A lot of times where I'm listening to a podcast, as this goes on for an hour, it might sound like a lot of fluff, but that guy might drop 1 second of information that you'll have to listen to. And so I'll drop these little nuggets here and there. and hopefully your viewers listened very clearly, very intently, and could pick up what I was putting down. So, do we have time for more? Like I said, I'm here all day. I put my whole day for you. Like I said, I'm a big fan of yours. I have a crush on you for the longest time, hopefully. But
Thank you. Thank you, Dagmore. I
so
appreciate it. Yes, I will be
you
happy
got it.
to answer the people because, as you know, this is very rare. People like you, they are most likely are not going to share on YouTube their face, their character, their story, for many reasons. So I really appreciate it and will
Yep.
be happy to answer the questions. Oh,
And
yes, someone else saw you.
Uh, they seen my videos before? No, I mean, like, I know there's a lot of people in the industry that don't show their face, and I'm not sure why. Obviously it's for personal reasons, but I feel I'm not doing anything wrong. Like I said, I mean, everything I do, I'm honest and I don't have regret. There were things I kind of probably thought I made the wrong decision at the time, but I've always showed my face. Brand building, again, how I became wearing a cowboy hat. And it goes back to when I first started, when my early years, I had long dreadlocks and it became part of my brand. When I sold that company and moved on with my life, I cut the dreads. And at the time, I was living I was scuba diving. And one of my friends, whose wife came up to me and said, "Hey, Andy's here. Andy's here." Like, I'm like, "Who is this guy? I don't know who he is." And he was the traffic captain. And I figured I was living in Dallas and in Texas, and I'm used to wearing my cowboy hat and my cowboy gear. So I said, I'll just be the traffic cowboy. And that's how the traffic cowboy evolved. When I go to all the events, I'm wearing the traffic cowboy gear. I um, I wear a black hat because yeah, I do black hat. And I understand, yeah, a lot of people don't want to be and say, a lot of people say, I can't believe you actually show your face or you actually show up in person. You're a black hat marketer. But black hat marketing doesn't mean that it's illegal. I've had seminars for big expos and big conferences where last minute they'll cancel because they're like, well, what you're going to tell people is how to break laws, how to like create systems that could be considered criminal. I'm like, no. I mean, even if I told you how to break into a bank and I give you all the tools, that's up to you with what you do with them. But in my case, I don't think that I'm breaking laws or breaking like doing anything bad, other than maybe breaking the terms of service of some of these platforms. And that really is how I built out my strategies is, going a little bit further, like taking that chance of saying, okay, it might break the terms of service for this platform, but I'm not going to break a law or do anything where I would find myself in jail. Like I said, I travel every month to a new country and I never want to be like pulled this. Well, I have been pulled aside and said, oh, we got to go through your phone. We got to go through your computer. They kind of know who I am, but I travel on a business visa now. I don't travel as a tourist because I travel for business. I'm honest. I don't do anything that would land me in course. Of course, you need to have a good infrastructure. I have a lawyer that is in your phone that if you ever need that. But if you ever think that something isn't right in your heart, don't do it. It's not worth the money. It's not going to be, well, there's some guys that I know that have broken laws and they went to jail for 2 years and now they're living amazing lives. And you have to kind of like figure if that's what you want to do. So I'm not going to say don't do it. I know guys that have done bad things and maybe I should have done too, but I don't. I mean, it's just the way I am. So, okay. So
Yes,
the entry, what an interesting journey. I'm going to read from your questions. So,
thank you.
what an interesting journey. I remember when I saw you at AVN once. Do you think the traffic problems have been bigger than today? AVN is an adult show. It's called the Adult Video News, and I go there every January. I work still for a lot of the big adult companies. I go there to see old friends, but it is strategic. Well, there are other conventions that happen at the same time in Las Vegas, which was the CES at the time, Computer and Electronics Show. Now there's a show called Affiliate Summit, which I'll attend both. So a lot of people think, well, I was at the time one of the bigger adult marketers, but being in now mainstream, which I guess you can call it, it is really where you want to do because there was a time where adult did was the first when it came to webcamming. Like we would never have been doing this cam unless the money was there for paying out what the adult companies paid for. I mean, in the beginning, there was a JPEG push. It was one JPEG per second. Now we're getting almost what, like 24 frames per second. So yeah, back in the AVN days, that's when I was running my adult programs, my adult sites, and that's what really was pushing even processing credit cards. Like, and then eventually the bigger companies came around, and people don't look at it now like, oh, well, I could just take my credit card and buy something online. Back in those days in AVN, do you think the traffic problems have ever been bigger than today? I think it's bigger. I think there's more traffic now than back in the old days. The old days, you could just put up a website and you were online. You were making money, but you needed to know some part of HTML. You needed to have a server. You needed to know, be able to upload to the traffic sources at the time. There was no traffic. There was no social platforms. Now you can, all you need is an ID. You upload your ID to a platform. You need a camera and a light. And that's all of a sudden now you have a platform. You don't need a server. You don't need to know HTML, PHP. You don't need to know how to build a website. So I think that might have put a big dent into the hosting companies. But of course, now they've pivoted to AI, because I'll walk into these data centers and these AI servers are just putting out heat. They're going for it. And now with traffic sources from the dating apps, if you're doing adult, if you're doing normal, when it comes to the social platforms, if you want me to read them, Instagram, Meta, Threads, Twitter, there's traffic there. You just need to put up your content. And then, like I said, in the back, you need to then replicate it, you need to automate it, and you need to continuously be on what's happening. So no, there was a time, let's say the golden years, they called them, where you just put up a website and you were making money. Now there's work involved, but the traffic is there. Everybody's used to going on the social platforms, and the guy might see something he likes, and then all of a sudden, it's not some kind of like creepy, dirty place that people go to find. But I don't want this video also to be just about the adult side of things, which AVN is. There's way more money, I believe, now in mainstream. Like next month, I go to a mainstream show, and it's like these guys are making money, and they pretty much figure out a system, and then they just start throwing ads at it. I mean, I know guys that are throwing $50,000 a day off of a TikTok ad, Meta ads, and probably more. So once you figure out what you need to do, then yeah, throw money at ads, and the money is in mainstream. And I know the guys that are doing the GPL ones, the loans, the even solar was big at one time. The last convention I was at was peptides. I mean, everybody's pushing peptides now. And of course, the online gambling, which I guess could be a crossover to adult. But AVN, I will be there again in January. Hopefully, we can meet up again. I don't know what his name is, but yeah, let's meet up there. We'll have a drink at the Round Bar, which was a place where we used to meet up. But no, the time is now. You guys are into the time where AI just getting better and better. There's more traffic now, I believe. You just know where it's like mining gold. You need to put up your pitch and just go for it. You need the right tools. You need a pick. You need a shovel. You need to go and look for those little gold nuggets, and they're here. I mean, I've mentioned a bunch in this podcast, and you just have to listen and just be out there to find out what's going on. Or you could just hire someone and say, "Hey, tell me what to do," and you know. So
No, I think I think you mentioned like a few very important things over here. So I hope the people will make sure they rewatch it. I
yeah,
think it's the same
exactly.
guy.
Oh, same
Yeah.
guy. Okay. Is there any secret sauce of not to get banned on IG? Well, some guys know that they're going to get banned like within the first 24 hours. And if that account lasts for 3 days, that's a win for them. So they're not going into it thinking when or how they're going to get banned. They know they're going to get banned, but they know the investment of setting up that account is going to make them way more than what the investment costed them, whether it be the phone number, the account, infrastructure. So for the people, the secret sauce of trying to keep your account from not getting banned is starting with a fresh account, in my opinion. I do not, again, buy aged accounts. I just don't. Knowing the source, if you are buying them, having a good source to know, okay, this account was built on a mobile device, which I only build on mobile devices. I don't use web to build them, which probably is easier. We use all Gmail or other trusted email providers to build the account. And also, those are the main ones, obviously, but I mean, um, and also using a good proxy and using good clones if you're going to clone your accounts. And then, of course, changing the metadata of your content. So a lot of people know about called clipping, where you clip your content. Hopefully, even this podcast that's now over an hour long, what they do is they'll clip this into smaller clips and take the best of the best and then just start mass producing it, which we can help. We can probably do that too for you guys. So, but yeah, for the secret sauce of not getting banned is having a good device, having a good account to start with, having a good phone number, uploading contacts, contact cards, being able to then start slowly with the automation. So even if you're even doing it by hand in the beginning, of building out the niche of what you want to do and then start ramping it up to more hours. But yeah, the secret sauce is just as if you were building a normal account and then just replicating that. I mean, I wish I could give you better sauce than that, but it's really just about the rules of just starting out slow and then replicating from there and automating.
If I can add, what do you think about there are like many, a service provider who can verify your account with no matter which, name, photo, and all of that, to get a blue check. What do you think about that, even for child account?
Yeah, for what kind of accounts?
Even childs, like, even people
Yeah.
just like,
Okay.
not
So we have a free tool that actually monitors Instagram accounts and Twitter accounts that I'll give free to your viewers. Anybody here that's watching from now today until ever. I don't care. I mean, if you're watching this a year from now and you hit us up through the link here from Addie and Dr. Jarvie, and you come to our site and you say, I heard that you're giving out a free tool to be able to view and understand how well my Instagram or Twitter accounts are, I'll give them the tool for free. It's not a big deal. Like, part of giving back to the community is helping people succeed. Like, it's not about the money. Of course, you need money to be in this business, but the money will come. If you do good things and you help people and you just are just relentless on just sticking to it. I mean, even if you have a part-time job and you're doing this part-time and you need, again, VAs to help you need to start with good tools, good team. And yes, when it comes to understanding, if you're buying child accounts, you can use our tool to see how good that tool is. I mean, that account is before you buy it. Yeah, just upload it to our system and you can use it for free. So yeah, that's something that I appreciate, you and your team and your whole entire audience is I'll give them that tool for free.
thank you. Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Thank you. That's a good question. I'm sure you know next post.
Okay, what makes this more stable? I don't know the company. I don't know that platform, to be honest with you. I can't say anything good or bad about it. So I don't know. If you send me, if this is the owner trying to promote his product in our group chat, just
Yes.
send me it and I'll look at it. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Yes, I would just add it's not the owner, it's a good guy. Also, I think from the States, by the way.
Yeah.
And just next post, it's like emulators, basically. Android, it can also be iOS
Yeah.
emulators.
Right. When it comes to emulators, I mean, I work with some of the biggest emulator companies as their North American rep out of China, and it does work. I mean, emulators, iCloud stuff, cloud phones, they work on some platforms. They don't work on every platform, but are they less expensive than building out a physical phone farm? Yes. Could you be super successful on using cloud phones? Yes. So I'm interested in seeing what's out there and hopefully this person that we can collaborate together. Like I said, again, a lot of this business is collaboration and not looking at it as competitive. If there's someone that has a better tool and we can work together, then yeah, let's do it. I mean, I'm open to partnerships and collaborations and growing together because it's really important to be able to know what's working, what's not, how we can make our tools, make our industry better. And of course, your audience, your group.
Thank you. Yeah, he just added about what is he's doing, and he's in a long time in this game.
Okay, so working with 150 EDM, which is electronic music, is the EDM is electronic, guys? Okay,
Yeah,
so
it is.
scrolling value, carousels, multiple accounts, 6 years on NP, or I guess that's next post for. Okay, so a lot of the guys that we're working with also are doing Spotify. Yes, you could make money doing Spotify. And what they're doing is they're creating lists, playlists, and they're just running those playlists real over and over 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and eventually those playlists we might get picked up by the algorithm. And if your music, and you could throw in a couple of the other well-known producers into your playlist, and eventually you might be getting plays. If you're talking about reels, yes, using your music on reels and giving them out will help you tremendously. So a lot of the thing, again, like I'm willing to give you and your audience free tools, free thing. Eventually, if they say to me, "Hey, I like this. I want to buy it. I want to grow." Yes, eventually you have to first start giving out your music to the masses. So using your EDM producers on reels and getting the music clips out there is going to work. And that's obviously where that strategy comes in. Adding it to Spotify, adding it to playlist. A lot of these guys are making money. And I could probably tell you, I know all they do is just keep replicating from one phone to 10 phones to 100 phones to 1,000 phones. And they just keep playing these playlists and they're getting paid. So
Cool.
I hope that answered your question. I mean, uh, mobile farming to scale easier. I guess since you're using an emulators and it's working for you, then continue using them, obviously, until it breaks. And then eventually you might want to start, or maybe start a little with physical phone farms and then see how that works. And obviously it's all about testing and replicating and then building. So yeah, I mean, but if NP is working for you as an emulator, and keep using it. I'm not going to tell you to leave. I don't use them and everything, but there are use case scenarios where I do use them.
Thank you. Okay, we have more questions.
Someone was saying hello, so I wanted to. Why do I stick out my tongue? I guess it just became part of the brand, and I used to have a gap in my teeth that I felt weird about smiling. So I figured if I go like this, no one will. You can use that as our wallpaper.
Cool, I will put on the thumbnail. Cool. So this is a question from I think from CEO from Cohen. He's asking about how long you've been developing the IG automation.
Yeah. Okay. So I developed from how I first met you or knew about you was it came from an old system called Jarvie. And at the time, that was the top automation tool for Instagram at the time. And when it broke, everybody was scrambling. Like, where are we going? Like, what are we going to do? I mean, you obviously remember those times. It was and so I knew that if I needed to not rely on other people or other systems, was we had to start our automation. So I'm guessing that was around 2022. Was around the Jarvie times, around that time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's where we started getting heavily into it. And then, of course, we knew that we were using systems like BlueStacks and emulators, but we knew that phones were the next way to go. But I think the phones really came from the dating apps, and the dating apps pushed us to go because there was no other way to really like go big on the dating apps unless you were using real devices. And but by how stable is it? It's only stable until it breaks. Everything breaks. And what happens is Meta might move their button over 1 pixel. Will it break our system? Possibly, yeah. They're always changing their interface around, and we need to stay on top of it. Now, you have to understand also when Meta does an update, a change, they don't do it all at once. It's called a rolling update. So they might roll out their next phase of their system, but only in certain areas and parts of the countries or to certain accounts. So not everybody is going to have the same problem all at once. But yes, that you will see a big problem when everybody is using the same link in their bio, because especially with the bio link sites, they got a mass ban. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of accounts got banned overnight because what they were doing was opening a site outside the Meta browser. So when you hit a link in the bio, you're still in the Meta browser. So what these guys were doing was opening up outside the Meta browser. And then if you tried to back out, it popped another link. And did it work for a long time? Yes, it made tons of money. But eventually things happened. And so I guess I should lead into which bio link should you use? I build my own. I mean, I still have a servers. I still build my own landing pages. I use that page also to add the retargeting pixel and be able to collect data. So, in my opinion, that helps a lot by having your own website, having your own pixel on there, having be able to collect data, and not relying on a bio link that could possibly get you banned because everybody's using the same one. Meta's going to know. And so I hope that answers your question about how stable is it. Right now, we're stable. We use it. We have a lot of clients, and we have a development team that's constantly updating it. But could it work tomorrow? Maybe not. You never know. But that's just the way the business is. Would I give a refund? Yes, absolutely. People that ask, say, "Hey, your system didn't work. I want a refund." It's like, okay, I'll give you a refund. It's not a problem.
That's amazing. I like that. Like you
But if,
really, it's really good.
but if I'm giving it to you for free, how are you going to get a refund?
Smart. That's smart. Okay, wants to hear more about like how you really doing like the automation process. I believe in like on the phones.
Right. How do you stimulate or really move to affect the sensors, the phone? Uh, we build everything on the phone. So we build the interface based on what the phone looks like. And yes, again, a Samsung 20 would be different than a Pixel 7a phone. The phones all have their own. Well, if you're using a different browser, we've had a lot of luck with using Graphene now, where we can then replicate multiple Chrome accounts and Chrome and Google accounts. That works. Does it work for automation? Not as much because we're still developing that. Will it work next month when you watch this video? Somebody watching this later? Yeah, it could work. So it's definitely good to always check in to see what's working, what's not working. To stimulate the real moves, the effects of sensors on the phone. Are you saying that keeping the phone moving so it's not always sitting in one place? Is that the question? Where it's
Yeah,
not just
it's
sitting
going
in a,
forward.
yeah, how
Yeah,
it's moving? Yeah.
yeah.
So in that case, a lot of guys have seen the watch when you have want to wind your watches. Did you ever see that?
I don't think so.
Well, maybe we'll edit it in later. There's like a lot of guys that have a lot of watches where they need to rotate them. They always have to move so that
Mm,
they're not sitting in one place. We've been using a lot of that to keep the movement, but those are very small use case scenarios. Those are, could it be the future where all the platforms are going to say, why is that phone sitting in the same exact location, never moving? It just sits there for 24 hours a day, a month. You're going to have a problem. And that's where we're going to then have to be able to keep the phones like rotating and moving. Because, yeah, I mean, once you download a lot of these apps, they know everything about you and we know everything about them. And of course, that's why buying ads, you can be really super specific about who you're trying to show your audience to. So,
thank you. Okay.
well,
Nice.
I mean, I am willing to change my religion for you.
Thank you. Okay. He's like, yeah, I think you should actually talk, by the way. Like maybe reach out to him on like he will reach out to you, Dagmore, in private because
Oh, I
I
guess I
think
read the question and that came out really awkward and maybe creepy in a way. But anyways, hopefully
no,
people can read the questions at the same time.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, but yeah, I was planning to go there. Well, yeah. Then again, you're on vacation now. Okay. So, what's the next question? Any more? I mean, I'm here all day,
Yes, guys, feel free to add more questions to Dagmore. Feel free. I don't think we
and I
have.
do travel. I travel, and if somebody feels, I do have clients sometimes that feel they need to fly me to their location, or I'm going to fly in. Then that's problem. That's not a problem as long as there is a a little bit of advance notice. I don't mind. I'm on a flight pretty much every month, going to different locations, meeting people in real life. Again, I know that a lot of people doing black hat marketing don't want to show their face for some reason. And yeah, I guess I respect it. But for me, when you really get to know a person and you sit there and you have dinner and maybe even meet their family, meet their friends, those are people that you can decide if you really want to do business with. Those are people that, you just love working with and you love hanging out with them. So you want to do business with those people. So I think a big part of my success is since I started again, like we were talking about when I went on that cruise ship in the Bahamas. And by the way, I never had sex with that guy's wife. Not because she was very good looking, but I guess it became a business thing after a while. But yeah, going back to those conventions where I originally met people in person, would be able to shake hands with them and know that these are the kind of people that I really love doing business with. The people that I meet online, and if they show their face on at least a video call, I think that, there's something there where, I just like talking to them and, knowing about their real life. Are they on vacation? How's everything going around their place where they are? And so I love to share, and hopefully I don't share too much because sometimes I'll share my shirts and I guess my hats, and I'll share too much. And I think a lot of people, they kind of get annoyed by that. I get kicked out of a lot of groups because they say, well, what does this have to do with the business? I think it has a lot to do with the business. It's just like you're sharing your real life. Do you want your entire group to be covered in, birthday pictures or things like that? No. But if it's somehow related to the topic or the industry, then I think it should fly. And you shouldn't ban me, and you shouldn't delete all my posts. I mean, your group is kind of one of the best. I don't see people coming in there and spamming it like terribly, and I don't see people getting like, I mean, my posts somehow live. I don't know why that is, but a lot of other places that I post on, I'll get banned right away. Like they think I'm spamming. It's like I'm not spamming, I'm just sharing. So sorry about that with other people.
No,
Not to you, but thank you to you. So
yeah, no, I think it's good. Like you're adding some, your own style, and it's like it's cool. I like that. I'm with you, and also I think it's important today to know from who you're buying services or products, and it's a bonus if we can get to know you, and then we can also get to know your real why. And I think we can definitely see it with you that you're not after the money, which is very rare today because most of the people, they're like after the money. And you can feel that. So I actually appreciate it.
well, some people that I did know that, these guys that are grinding hard and they're like, I'm all about the money. I can respect that. And then if I
Yeah.
say, uh, I can't meet with you tomorrow because I'm going sailing or horseback riding or doing something, they kind of get annoyed. They're like, well, I get it. They want to grind 16, 18 hours a day, 24 hours a day. And that's awesome. And that's where you need to be. As I've gotten older, I have a team that will support them in anything that they're doing. So it's not a big deal if they say, well, I'm hiring you. Well, you're kind of hiring my team. You're hiring all of us. And that's really where it comes down to. But yeah, you got in the beginning, you got to be about the money. I get it. Like I was always about the money in the beginning. Now I'm more about, I still need money. Yes, I agree. But I'm willing to give out things for free to help. And then maybe that's where it goes back to like the teachings of Jesus, where it's just like if you live as a good person and you're honest and you help people, mostly you're going to do well and you'll have no regrets to look back on anything you've done. If it was all about the money, like people say, a lot of the chatters are cheating the client because he thought he was talking to the actual creator. Meanwhile, there's somebody chatting in the background. But I feel that if it's entertainment, that the person's been entertained and they feel good about their experience, I don't think that is cheating the guy because, he was happy for that time. And if he wants his money back, but that's where we're getting into something now very important when it comes to AI creators. The platforms are already restricting a lot of the AI creators because it's the credit card processing companies. The credit card processing companies are getting a lot of chargebacks because the guy who thought the creator was a real person is now finding out it was all AI. He wants his money back. And maybe they've already paid out that creator and they have to do a chargeback. So there's ways of mitigating chargebacks by spreading your merchant accounts over, again, thousands of merchant accounts. But that's what's happening now. And it wasn't happening last year. So the gold rush for AI creators was massive in the last year and maybe even earlier. It's getting more restricted now where the credit card processing companies are saying you have to tell the client that this is an AI creator. A lot of people are getting annoyed. And this only happened like last week, where a lot of the big platforms have said, if it's AI, you have to tell them it's AI. And we've seen a big drop in revenue. A lot of the other big platforms, right away, they said, we don't want AI because we already make enough. And they could have potential lawsuits because when you build those AI characters, they're trained on somebody or a photo, which could be licensed or it could be a real person. And a lot of the celebrities, if the celebrities say, wait a minute, the AI looks a lot like me, they'll sue the credit card processors, they're gonna sue the hosting company, they're gonna sue everybody. And so you're gonna see a big change in the next couple of weeks, next couple of days. That's how things move this fast. So if you want to get on the AI creator money gold rush, you gotta, put your foot to the gas and no brakes. Just go for it right now. Next month we'll deal with it. We'll see what happens. And yes, could they be paying in crypto? Have a lot of the creators or agencies and people moved off of the credit card processing? Yeah, they did. Did they see a big drop in revenue going all towards crypto? Yeah. But are they still making money? Yes. So it's evolving. Everything is evolving every day. And, it's, you got to be on it. So,
I agree. Definitely agree with you, Dagmore. Guys, if you have more questions, so feel free. We have another question for you from the same guy.
okay. So you're trying to generate more inbound leads to attract DJs and producers and music labels for using phone farms. What would your strategy be? Your cold DMs, automation, actions, welcome new, yes, all of above. So when you're trying to create music or promote music, which is safe because it's not that spicy content that you could get banned with, reaching out to a lot of the big creators and agencies and giving them your reels, giving them your music to use is going to put you out there. And again, like I said, giving out that stuff for free is going to get you well known. I mean, that's what everybody wants to know. I mean, are you going to gatekeep? But hopefully, if you can create one good piece of music, you can replicate that and create that again. I guess I go back into another golden nugget for the people that are listening is you can create AI music, put that into a playlist and run that playlist 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and get paid on it. And it's not a producer, it's an AI music that you've generated. So, and then who's listening to it? Your farms are listening to it. Your phones are just listening to that playlist over and over and over. So,
Super cool. Do you think, what do you think about like this strategy of like getting this type of client? Would you recommend to like some, like Alex Hermosi, like one product, one service, one funnel, one avatar, or you think like he should do all of the above, all of these, funnels or
yeah,
traffics?
that's a little bit of all of above. I mean, you want to start with multiple accounts, using your music. And again, if you use a well-known creator with their permission, and then start putting it out there with your real music, and that gets picked up, and everybody starts using that soundbite. Yeah, I mean, that was really what TikTok was built on. I mean, TikTok was ByteDance in the beginning, which was people dancing to music and lip syncing and doing videoke to songs. That's really where it started. So if you use the same strategy of having creators use your music where they're using a bite and then getting it out there on the reels, it's gonna, people are like, wait a minute, I like this little sound bite. Let me go find out who the producer is. And of course, they're gonna tag you. And yeah, that's a whole nother system of just eye candy. Of course, a lot of people eat with their eyes, but if they're listening and they like what they're hearing, they're gonna find you. And that's again going back to how good your content is. If your content isn't good, it's not gonna work. Like if your song sucks, then it sucks. All the automation, everything you put towards this, that's really the secret sauce. I mean, if your content is good, start replicating. So start with one phone, one account, two accounts, six accounts, 10 phones, 100 phones. But that's really it is. I mean, it comes down to how good your content is. And all the money in the world is not going to make it good if it's not good. So,
Thank you. As for the content stuff, like probably you met many business owners and, like, or agency owners that are not really good with that. What would you recommend, let's say, if someone doesn't know how to do that?
Yeah, that's why the VAs can really help, or there are people that are amazing at creating content, AI at least, but there also are agencies who have already figured out the secret to creating good content. And yes, you can go and just replicate what they're doing and saying, if it's working for them, it's going to work for me, most likely. But if you're not in the same niche or same demographic, by copying what's working for this creator and trying to replicate it, but you're kind of not the same, it's not going to work. But yeah, look at who's doing what they're doing and then replicating it. And if that's for in real life creators, but when it comes to AI, you can create the same exact content using AI now. But if you don't know how to do it, I think there might be some people in your group that might be able to help, and we might be able to help with that. But it's really about looking at what's working and riding that wave, getting in on the when that wave is just starting to swell, and just riding it for as long as you can. But once you're riding it and on top and you're making money, you'll start finding other people that are also doing the right thing. Somehow success attracts other people. You'll start realizing this guy knows what he's doing. You reach out to them. Yeah, some people will be a douchebag. Some people think I'm like standoffish in a way, but usually they're trying to sell me something. And yes, I do buy things. I definitely support the community, but sometimes I might have a bad way of saying it, like, I don't need your product because of this and that. And I should say something more diplomatic and be like, right now I don't need a tax write-off, and so I can't use it, but things like that. But yeah, content is really about, if you don't know how to do it yourself, finding those people that do and keeping them happy. And then there are, again, a lot of these VAs from countries that are where the dollar goes or the currency goes a lot further, who are very talented, more talented than me, or more educated than me, that have the infrastructure ready to set up. And I think that goes back to the beginning of this video of when I eventually moved to those countries and started working with them and realizing the struggle they have of just getting to work, and how happy they were to work for someone that appreciates them. And again, like, doing everything I could to make sure these employees are happy is going to make your business grow. If you're just treating them like a low level or a cheap employee and you don't respect them, they're not going to respect you, and you're never going to grow. And they have their own communities too. And they'll right out say, this guy is a dick, I'm not working for him. And then again, like, not paying what you owe them. And the smallest amounts, like somebody be like, oh, that guy ripped me off for $100. It's like, really? You had to rip this guy off for, like, and just not just pay them and just be done with it. So I find out that hurts businesses, young people just starting out that don't understand business, that this is a real business, no matter what you're doing. If you're doing spicy content, if you're gaming stuff, it's a real business at the end of the day. But some guys that are coming from the old drop shipping, and it's like, this works today, and they're just into it for the bag tomorrow, and then now they're looking for the next big thing. Yeah, you kind of have to watch out for those guys. But are they doing great? Yeah, they are. They're making money. Are they going to be around 20, 30 years from now, like me, like some old guy? Maybe. Who knows? I've seen guys change over time, and I still talk to most of the guys that I know from when I first started. Some have moved on, some have died. A lot died because just our age, maybe. So hopefully this video helps a lot of people, and they can realize that if you treat it like a business, if you treat your employees well, if you treat your partners with respect, most likely you will do good. And again, it goes back to being a good person and being, trusted. So.
Thank you very much. We didn't finish. Wait, you have more.
Okay, let's do 2 hours at least. Okay, how can we survive? If companies enforce ID verification, what are the strategies for SM marketing? SM is social
I think
media marketing. Okay, so yeah, that's the thing with ID. It's going to be going back to knowing your customer. So you're going to need to, they're getting strict. I mean, it's not saying you can't create AI content to push the initial product to the platform that is actually processing the credit card. That is where, if you have a good product and you're driving enough AI content that doesn't have the ID, but there are companies now, like one of the companies I'm working with, he built his entire library on, or his whole AI creators on a library he owns. He owns one of the biggest libraries. So he was able to use that library that has all the IDs, all the model releases, and he was able to say to the credit card processing companies, this girl is over 18 years old. She's not a celebrity. I have her ID, I have her model release, and I created content from his library. And that's where that, yeah, okay. So that would be one of the how you could survive is by using an LLM, a system that could prove that this creator is over 18 years old, which is very, very important, and not based on a celebrity, which could cause problems. And they'll go, okay, well, let's see that ID. It's like, okay, here it is. So we do have ID verifications for certain things. Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be a problem. So, yeah, that's part of our survival plan of using libraries to create the content based on IDs we have and model releases that we have in our, and that again goes back to why we've been in business for over 30 years. We've been in business for this long is because we did the proper infrastructure. We, from the beginning, collected IDs. We got them, the best lawyer to write our model releases saying, we are able to use this content however we want, and we're going to pay you fairly. So having a good model release, because that now 20 years later, some people will say, wait a minute, I didn't allow you to use this release, or we never signed a release. We were just doing a trade. Like, I'm going to appear in your video, you're going to appear in my video, or I'm going to be one of the producers or musicians on your song, you're going to be on mine. But there was never a written contract. So early on, before it was never even thought of, we said to, of course, when we started processing credit cards, we needed to make sure that that model or that person was over 18 years old. But we went even further where we were doing the proper model releases that they agreed that they were going to get paid and that we were going to use their content to then monetize, and we could use, into eternity. Is that a problem now with AI? Probably not, because we were very, very, very strict with on how we set up the business structure. And again, that goes back to be treating it like a real business. Don't just create content, no matter if it's music or without the proper documentation. And yeah, AI is now writing that too. Do you need a lawyer? Maybe, maybe not. You can write it with AI, right?
That's true. Thank you for that. And also,
Mhm.
what do you think? I also want to add to this question. Maybe he's also speaking about, let's say, if I want to have like more accounts, but in order to open, let's say, like to create more accounts, for example, LinkedIn, they are so strict with
Yeah.
your ID. So I don't think it's even possible to have like, the same, Dagmore with the same name, last name in LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, going to these mainstream shows, obviously people are trying to target that audience on LinkedIn. And that's one of the first questions people ask me when they want to trade or exchange contact information. They'll say, let's connect on LinkedIn. And I'm like, I don't have one. Like, what do you mean you don't have one? And I don't really focus on that platform right now. It seems that the more I get involved with the mainstream marketing, I might build it out. But will it be for vanity? Will I be sticking out my tongue on my LinkedIn? Of course. Will I be wearing my shirts that are more, geared towards some of the adult companies? Probably, yeah, because that's me. I'm not going to hide what I do because now I'm on LinkedIn. But honestly, I know that that's a very big audience, and people are treating it as a funnel for not only getting jobs, but they're also using it as a dating site now too. They're trying to
Really?
find, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that's a good funnel if you're trying to sell spicy content, right? If you start on LinkedIn, the guy will be like, hey, I like this person. It's they have they're looking at your LinkedIn account. Yeah, LinkedIn is now in some circles considered a dating site because who do you want to date? You want to date people based on their resume, right? Or their industry or what they do. So, or, that is now one of the secrets. So, yeah. So, starting in the next rollout of this quarter, we probably be focusing more on LinkedIn. So, check in, I guess, next couple of months to see how we've progressed on that platform. So,
Cool. Awesome. Okay. That's a good one. What do you think about that?
what is the best software to use right now? Well, it depends what you're trying to do. I mean, there's so many. I'm trying to think like, I mean, I use my own for most situations, third party ones. If we can't figure it out, I'll probably reach out to one of my friends. I mean, okay, so uh, for what? For building AI content, most people are using Higgsfield. A lot of guys are using Cdance, but there's so many of them. It's kind of hard to say what's the best or what. Yeah, best is kind of. I'm gonna respectfully probably pass on that question. The question was, what is the best software to use right now? What I tell you today might not be relevant tomorrow or next year. Maybe the best thing to do is, yeah, join. If you're not already a member of Addie's group, go there and just see what guys are talking about. If I find out something I'm using, I always post it. I don't gatekeep. If I don't use it, I'll tell everybody this is what I hear most people are using and it's working. So it's kind of a vague question. I'm sorry that I can't answer it perfectly. So,
Thank you. Yeah, now we explained, you elaborated. So
yeah.
maybe now.
Okay, phone farms and automate IG account. Yes, absolutely. Phone farms work with IG amazingly because IG was created for phones. That's the original, and that's where they want to stay. Do they have a web browser for IG? Yeah, they do, but there's a lot of missing parts to it. Will they know that you're on a web browser? Yeah, they know everything. They know everything about you. They know right now they're going to probably pick up on this, come and listen to this and be like, do we want to block them? No, they don't always block my accounts because they know I'm adding value. They know I'm adding brain rot time to their audience. So if my content is good and it's staying in the terms of service, my accounts will take off and they'll grow and they'll last forever because I'm not trying to push there. I'm not trying to say, okay, I'm going to go as hard as I can in that situation. If you stay within the terms of service, if you create good content that's not going to be reported and it's going to be good content, again, going back to good content that keeps the viewer there, ratting his brain. He's going to watch the reel over and over and over and over. He's going to comment on it. We can use our automation tools to comment on it. Will Meta know that we're using our tools? No, because we're using phones. We're using real devices. Um, so that's really where the phone farms are the most powerful when it comes to IG. Yes, there's definitely other platforms that work great for the phone farms. Again, if you want to build proxies, I will give you the proxy software to create your own proxies. You don't need to buy them from me anymore. You can create your own. So, that's the other thing too. Like I already have that, which I've used, and now I'm willing to give out to other people. Like I don't gatekeep. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's just for me. You only can pay me. If you want it, take it, and you'll hopefully you do good. And then you say, okay, I'm going to pay you now. So pay as you exit. That's our motto. So
Thank you. What about maybe if you want to talk in the last minutes about like your softwares, your services, maybe if you want even like to share, I don't know if you can, of course, but share some of
yeah,
the like your screen.
um,
There's
we
one
could
question for you.
we could share it later. Or like I said, I'm not here to spam and promote my products. I'm hopefully if people figure out where I am and what I'm doing, they're going to figure it out and find me. But yes, we do run an account, a website called Jesus Empire, which is part of the automation tools. We kind of try to use everything that we use and put it under one umbrella. Where if you come there, not only can you get the automation tools, you can also get the proxies. You can also get the proxy software to create your own proxies. We have all the infrastructure for the phone numbers that verify the accounts. We have automation tools for not only IG, but Twitter, but for WhatsApp, for Telegram. So anything I use, you can use, but we've broken off into other websites, mostly for SEO purposes, and that are like Jesus Proxy and Jesus number, but the main one is Jesus Empire, based on, like I said, it's just the trust score, and you can see my shirt, Jesus. But but yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, I figure that's the whole thing too. Is a lot of people going back again to the old days where they were so focused on putting a watermark on their content, like they would watermark their content, their videos, their pictures. And I would say, well, why are you doing that? And they're like, well, I want people to find out who I am. And yes, I agree on watermarks. But if you kind of, they get too intrusive where they come to the point where it's spammy, or it's kind of like, if your content isn't good enough already, then nobody's going to be looking for you. Again, when I was a photographer, a videographer, I made sure my content was as good as possible, where I didn't need a watermark, because people would know that's who the guy that shot it. Like, they would just figure it out, and you would build your own brand. I mean, again, why I'm not spamming or promoting my websites is because I am the brand. You'll find me if you go to the shows. I'm very easy to find. I'm at every event, most of the big events. Online, I try to post on most of the big Telegram groups if they haven't already kicked me off for, thinking I'm spamming or promoting something that they think is into their niche. But yeah, I mean, we could put a link down there, and hopefully they'll follow you and come through your link. And yeah, I mean, and again, we have an affiliate program where if you can't use our tools and you want to promote it and use other people to find our products, I'll pay you. The affiliate program was something, again, that goes back to the 90s, where there was multi-level marketing, but there wasn't the cookie, there wasn't the code where you can hit a link and then that would track the person to finally when he makes the sale, where we can then pay that off. So yeah, being one of the first affiliate programs in the early 90s was what made things special. Back then, I mean, if you're watching a clip here, watching one of the videos that we clipped and put up, go watch the history of when I first started. That was really when it all started. There were no affiliate programs. There were no way to pay for a credit card online. It was just the beginnings of the beginnings. And yeah, I mean, we'll put a link up. I mean, we can post in this group. Maybe somebody can fire off a link right now in the group. I kind of like try to be more not so spammy, and just have people that want to work for me or work with me will come find me, and then we'll figure it out, from there. So.
I like this. It's a good attitude. There's like two more questions for you.
Yeah. Okay. So, how do you find strategies, content ideas of what's starting now? And that really comes down to what's going trending in the news. So, obviously, if it's a political trend, that's what you want to stay on top of. We also, if there's big sporting events, I mean, there was just a big sporting event in the last couple of months that we've created a lot of content on. A lot of people are creating news sites, newscasting, where that's getting picked up by all the big, the ChatGPT will pick up news. We do a lot of what we call parasite SEO, to sending out our press releases on not only the major news sites, but also, Reddit, Medium, Quora, stuff like that. And that was for a time where the big ChatGPT, Claude was getting, and Gemini was getting all of their links from. I think in the last couple of weeks, and probably when you watch this, it might not be happening now. Google will always pull their content, or Gemini will always pull their content from Google, obviously. So SEO, what it used to be, how we used to do it back in the day with backlinks, which was very important, is still important. Don't get me wrong. Building out the correct structure of an SEO for your website, and then again, that goes back to why you need a landing page that is your own website, and not using these landers, these landing sites. Is you can then create SEO. You can then submit that to news sites, create, do your Reddit marketing, we do have Reddit, what we're developing, Quora, Medium. So those are another way of the strategies, but the content ideas are obviously what's happening, what other people are doing, and riding that wave as long as you can. But yeah, if you stick with what's going on in the news, you're going to be good. And that's obviously acting fast. You got to be on it. I mean, one week things are trending, and the next week nobody cares. So.
True. Thank you. And I think that will be the last question.
Okay, do you prefer working with smaller businesses or bigger ones? Is there a basic investment of an investment should bring into the corporation with you to make things really go in the right directions? I like working now with small teams because we can pivot and we can move fast. I have worked for some of the biggest companies, bar none, in the world, and it was a lot of meetings. It was like every day we sat in a meeting, and the first part of the meeting was what we talked about the last meeting. The next part of the meeting was where we're going, and things were held up so much that it was like turning a battleship. Like, and it was like, listen, we need to work small, we need to pivot, we need to act fast. Again, like if we're doing something that's based on the news, we need to create that content like today, and it's got to be up by tomorrow. When you have a small team of having good leadership, I hire my best managers. I try to hire guys that treat them, and I give them a percentage. Obviously, I'm not going to be like, oh, make me money and you're just going to work for me. And that goes back to being in the union and being a good worker. And I still go to electrical jobs and work for companies just so I can feel like I want to make this person successful. Smaller businesses, I love working with them, but they need to have their strategy and their content fine tuned. Bigger companies usually come in with a big budget, a lot of money, and they say, just make it happen. And when I say, okay, well, to make it happen, you're going to need content, you're going to need a strategy. So if you don't already have that, we need to figure it out. And also, a lot of companies that are bigger want everything by tomorrow, or they think like, okay, we've been doing this a month. How come it hasn't been super successful? A lot of the strategies take time. You have to be patient. You have to understand that to warm up an account and rather just going out and spamming things really like right off the rip could get your accounts banned, and it's going to mess up the algorithm. Like by buying fake traffic, by buying fake followers, by buying fake stuff, most of the time, I'm not saying always, it's mostly a vanity thing. When you come in with a million followers or you buy traffic and you buy followers, it's really vanity. And does the big platforms know you're doing this? Yeah, they know. Of course they know that you went from 0 to 100 and your content sucks. But if your content's great and you're drip feeding, it's going to do good. So I like working with small teams that have a budget, that have a strategy, that have the content. Yes, I could work with a big corporation that has, we can break into a smaller team and we report to those people that need to. Do I need to sit in a meeting every day? No, I don't. It's like we can give reports every week, or at least report to one of your people that are going to be, at least if they don't know what we're doing, we're going to report to them, and then they can report to the owner. That's how a good team works. And that's how really, again, going back to building construction and building data centers, building airports, building bridges, you have smaller teams that do the infrastructure, and then you start building and building. And I guess that goes back to, again, my education, my work ethic of building and then letting the people that are the best at what they do lead. Could I give my comments? Not if they're the best at what they do. Hire the best people you can and treat them well. Don't try to micromanage things. Don't be like, oh, what's going on? I need to know. It's like you don't need a report. Of course, having reading, and looking at KPIs and saying, okay, we've reached this KPI this month, this week is obviously good. You need to make sure that you start looking at the pennies that make the nickels, that make the dimes, the quarters in US currency, at least. You have to micromanage. You need that, of course. You need to look at where your money is being invested, where your focus is, where your attention is. But for me, if it's a big company that has a big team, we don't need to sit in meetings every day. I can meet with your lead every day or every week and breaking into a smaller team. And as that team gets good at what they're doing, we replicate it, we automate it. And then after that, we form another team and then another team and then another team. And that's how I built my businesses. And that's how I did from the beginning. But hiring the managers that can help manage your company is really where you're going to find the most success, in my opinion. I don't know everything. I try, but
You know a lot, yeah. Thank you very much, Dagmor. It's before we finish. Wait, I just want to see because people are still, watching, and I think you give and you provide a lot of value, which is amazing. It's also more than 2 hours, which is awesome.
What do we have?
So
6,000 people watching right now?
yeah, I think maybe 6 million. I think you missed
Yeah.
the.
Oh yeah. My eyes are getting bad, worse as I go on.
So maybe like if you can share with us, because you do have such a lot of experience, you work with so many people. What will be for the people who are watching that? So I'm guessing some of them are like agencies owners, some of them just like business owners of their own, but probably the most of them are like in this type of field. So what would be the biggest tip you can give them in order to have, we have like 6 more months in 2026, so to have like a bigger success?
Right. Well, how about this? Since I've been following you for so long and I'm a big fan, why don't you tell me who your audience you think is your audience right now? I know that, you're involved in a lot of products and you refer a lot of great clients that are amazing to work with. But who like so I could speak honestly on who you think your audience are. You said that they're agency owners mostly, or and that doesn't just mean the spicy content, right? I know that that's a big part of it now, and they seem to be, you know. But who is your audience, and what are you doing that I can be add more value to you and your audience?
Thank you. Yeah, I think the majority of them, I would guess. No, like, yep, I would think it's like the agency's owners. So when I say like agency, I mean like like someone. It can be OF, but it can also be just like a guy or a girl who have many clients, which they provide for them the organic growth using phone farms to social and expos, emulators, Onimat, like many of these kind of tools. So I think this is like the majority of the audience.
Okay, so that's a good question. And how I work a lot with agencies is we do a white label where they're the front of the store. I'm the back of the store. I do everything for them. And I don't need to take credit. I'm not that, I don't need to be the like, hey, it was me. I'm way past that. I'm way, way past that. So the new guys who are running the agencies who have the connection with their audience, their creators, or whoever they're dealing with, I do all their back end. They send me their phone farms, their phones, their boxes. We do all the technical work for them. We give them all of our tools and they can resell it. And it looks like them. I don't need to be the person to get credit for it. Like I said, I'd rather just have them take credit. We build together, we work together, and they get all the credit. They just might introduce me once, and as I work for them, that's fine. uh, but yeah, I think that is really where agencies, when you say they're taking on other clients and they're selling a product to their agency or a service, we support a lot of the agencies. Like we're actually the back end of the agency. So we're providing them with the traffic, the tools, and all they know is the creators or their clients think it's them. They don't even know about me. They never know about me. It's like, and I keep that as a confidence, and I'm very, very strict on who we work for, what we do with their products. We never try to share their strategy ever. I never would do that. I mean, that's where building the trust and going and meeting people and talking with them. When they give me their strategy and they want us to replicate it, I would never, ever share that with any other clients. And I break them off as to say, this is you, that's it. And then, yeah, so a lot of the agencies we work with, we provide the services, we provide the technical back end, we provide some workers for them. And, but we want to work with their team. I don't want you to them just to hand me money and be like, make it happen. We want to make sure that if they decide that our partnership or our services are not needed and they can go on their own, their business will still continue and not have to rely on me. And again, that goes back to originally why we built out these services, because we were reliant on other platforms or other tools or other systems where once that system went down, we were in trouble. So we needed to build it out. And I never want that to happen to any other person and have that feeling where if something was to happen to us, they were now stuck and they don't have a. So we teach their whole entire team what we do, how we do it. And if they decide to stay with us, that's where we feel we succeeded and we have a good partnership. If they come to the point where they're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore, we can do this on our own. Like, yeah, that's cool. That's fine. That happens a lot with the OF agencies, creators. When I used to work directly with creators, which, yeah, I mean, I've kind of don't unless they have a team. because once we've gotten them up, and this happened again in some of these other places that I've worked with creators when it first started, when we first started OF, we would scale them up into, let's say, tens of thousands of dollars a month. And all of a sudden they said, wait a minute, we don't need you. We're my clients, my customers are buying because of me, because of my videos, my pictures. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the one that got you there. They're like, yeah, but we can handle it from here now. My boyfriend or I, my husband or my team, we got it. I'm like, what are you talking about? All right, whatever. So I really don't work with a creator who's solo unless they have a team, unless there's like longevity to it. And I don't want to be partners. I don't want to be partners with them. I don't. Not because I don't think there's money in it. I know a lot of agencies have partnerships with these creators, but for me, just based on my experience and working with creators on a partnership, I don't do it, but I'll give you a fair price and a fair deal that if you use our services and you're going to make money, hopefully. Again, going back to your content, going back to your strategy, but I don't want you to feel stuck. If you're an agency owner that hired us and all of a sudden something went down and you're reselling this, I know you're reselling it and I want you to resell it. I want to help you. I want to support you. But I want to make sure that if our partnership or our services are no use to you anymore, your business, your agency, your company can go on and live. Does it happen a lot? Not that much anymore. I kind of vet and deal with people that I don't take on everybody, put it that way. I'm not trying to be the biggest supplier or the biggest service provider. I kind of want to make sure that everything is a win. I don't like losing. I like to make sure every one of my agencies or my clients are going to win. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Dagmore. It was really a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed that, and I'm sure the people over here really enjoy because I saw all of the questions. I think we definitely need another session with you
Yeah.
next maybe when you would be free. So we
Yeah,
schedule it.
next, let's do it next quarter. And I mean, you don't have to go into your personal, but what kind of businesses are you working on now? What's your focus? If we see, I mean, you don't have to mention. I was just asking. Maybe I have a couple questions now. Now that I have you right in front of me, and the first time I think we've ever spoken on video, which, like again, I said, it's amazing. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much to share my life, share my businesses, share all my strategies. Hopefully, maybe like you said, in the next quarter or next couple of months, people will then find out they have more questions that weren't answered today. They're watching this on replay. Yeah, let's see. So maybe if you just want to tell me a little bit of what you're doing and how I can help you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, I did kind of like many changes in the last months. Why I wasn't really active so much on YouTube and on the Telegram. Worked behind the scenes about a few products, I can say.
Yeah.
Most of them, like automation for social media, as you mentioned, to use the power of the AI with the cool team. So I did a few stuff like that. And yes, and now I'm trying to get back. I think many people over here, not too much more to be like the agency owner, but more like to build tools and to promote them like SaaS tools, which can help all of us. But if they give me data to get more leads and to get the data that we need, even if it's for phone farms and to connect with API. Yeah, and now I also want to get. This is why I also want to do this kind of live, like to go back to creating new stuff and to meet cool people like you. We haven't really spoke, but I saw you super active on the community, and it's so that I can see when people is like when someone is really knowledgeable about this industry, or it's just like a kid, because we are getting older. We can
Yeah.
say that.
All right, let me speak on that because I actually use your product to give me data, and I'll tell you how it's used for me. I mean, our best use case scenarios is again getting the data from your target audience to build the lookalike audiences. We don't use the content, I mean the data as much to spam because obviously there's a lot of legalities when you're mass sending, and I don't like spam. Most people don't like spam. So what we do is using your tool, give me data. We'll take the data that we collect and we will then create lookalike audiences. that's where we're finding our most success, and be able to create the contact lists for when we're creating the accounts. So we know exactly the audience we're trying to target. So your product is amazing. I mean, we use it a lot. And again, I mean, hopefully we'll be working more together. You've sent us amazing clients that we're happy to serve. We want to make sure that, we're serving you and your product. I'm not going to be getting into that. That's not my thing, but let's work more together, and we'll hit up after this call. We'll try to figure out how we can grow together. And again, going back to the community, going back to meeting people in person, we're all in this together. Where a lot of my original affiliates and people that I work with, they used to be clients of mine, or they used to be members of my websites. Like, we're not selling somebody. Well, a lot of people were selling entertainment. We're sending them value, but eventually they realize, wait a minute, I love this product so much that I now want to be involved and help sell it and make money at the same time. Everybody likes a little money, but don't do it just for the money. If you can help it, that kind of makes you go nuts. But if you can do something you love, like they say, if you find something, it's just love what you do. And again, meeting the people in this community, some people might seem awkward because they're always in back of a computer, but eventually those people come out and they're just like, something. I want to meet people and I'm ready. And I go to all the major events in the whole world. Every month I'm in a different location. I live kind of out of a suitcase, but thankfully to all these people that send me the t-shirts and send me the gear to wear, I always have fresh clothing to wear. And yeah, but I come back and I hit up the data centers. I make sure, do I do most of the infrastructure work? I still do, because like I said, I love electricity. I love hardware, telecoms. I do have a big team, for the technical software stuff. So yeah, let's do more together, AD. I mean, it's awesome.
I would love to. Really, Dagmore, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoyed that. We will put the links, of course, to to Dagmore website and his contact, so you can feel free. And thank you. Hope you have a
Okay.
great day.
So long, guys. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Thank you, Dagmore. Bye bye.